Chapter 1128. Seeing Yu Tianhong's reaction, Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows. Do you think that since you're going to die anyway, you might as well fight to the end and die with dignity? He looked at Yu Tianhong with a smile, and asked in a mocking tone. Yu Tianhong clenched his fists and pursed his lips. He didn't say anything, silently agreeing with this statement. The civilians and soldiers around the city gate were also confused. They didn't know what was going on, and started whispering to each other. Ha! If that's the case, I'll let you know that death isn't scary. What's scary is living a life worse than death. As he spoke, Ji Tianxing stretched out his right hand, and made a hand seal. He controlled the Gu Dao's divine power, and the divine Gu in Yu Tianhong's body. Suddenly, the divine Gu in Yu Tianhong's body exploded and ate away at his flesh and soul. A soul-devouring and bone-piercing pain instantly assaulted his entire body, causing him to fall to the ground with a plop, violently twitching and rolling about. Yu Tianhong's face twisted as he screamed miserably. His skin continued to crack as blood spurted out. The armor he was wearing had been torn apart by him, turning into a pile of broken metal pieces that were thrown on the ground. The purple robe he wore under the armor was completely soaked in blood. Moreover, his body swelled up violently, and countless lumps appeared all over his body. His feet and legs were rotting at a speed visible to the naked eye. His flesh turned into a pool of black blood, and only his bones were left. The 10,000 soldiers and civilians around the city gate saw this horrifying scene with their own eyes. Their faces turned pale, and they broke out in cold sweat. Countless people retreated in fear. They didn't dare to get close to Yu Tianhong, for fear of being infected by the invisible curse. That's right. The ordinary soldiers and civilians were weak and inexperienced. They all thought that Yu Tianhong was cursed. Below Yu Tianhong's waist, he had turned into a skeleton, and was stained with black blood. Above his waist he still had flesh and blood. However, he was covered in sarcomas and bulges. He looked ugly and hideous. He rolled on the ground and wailed, begging for mercy in a hoarse voice. Ji Tianxing. Lord Ji. Stop it. I beg you. Let me go. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done this to you. I admit my mistake. Yu Tianhong was in so much pain that he wanted to die. His mind and will had collapsed. He quickly surrendered to Ji Tianxing and begged for mercy. The soldiers and civilians were all dumbfounded. No one had expected that the majestic immortal general would be humiliated like this, kneeling on the ground like a dead dog, and begging for mercy. Just a moment ago, many civilians and soldiers were waiting to see a good show. In their opinion, as long as the divine general appeared, Ji Tianxing would definitely die. He would definitely be beaten to the point of kneeling and begging for mercy. But now, the one who was kneeling and begging for mercy was Yu to their god of war. This was simply too shocking. Many people could not believe their eyes. Their hearts were filled with shock and fear. At the same time, many people couldn't understand. Wasn't the divine general an expert of the spirit refining realm? Why couldn't he resist Ji Tianxing at all? Why was he being tortured to be tortured? For a soul refinement cultivator, even if their physical body was destroyed, their soul would still be intact. They still had powerful combat power. But only Yu Tianhong and Ji Tianxing knew that the seed of the divine venomous insect was planted in the soul. Yu Tianhong's soul couldn't use any power at all. It could even collapse at any time. Ji Tianxing only needed to think about it, and his soul would be destroyed. He would die completely. There was no other way. Yu Tianhong had been planted with the divine venomous insect 8 years ago. The seed of the divine venomous insect had been planted in his soul. It was deeply rooted. Ji Tianxing temporarily stopped casting. He held the 5-colored altar in his right hand, and looked down at Yu Tianhong expressionlessly. The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a disdainful sneer. I thought you had some backbone. I didn't expect you to be such a weakling. Were those unyielding words of yours just now all made up? All the people in the city and your soldiers are watching. Where's your face? These words could be said to strike at the heart. Yu Tianhong was completely humiliated. The 10,000 people around the city gate all felt deeply humiliated. They lowered their heads and couldn't bear to look at Yu Tianhong's miserable appearance. Yu Tianhong was also humiliated to the point of vomiting blood. His reputation was ruined today. From now on, he could only become the laughingstock of the world. He raised his head with all his might and glared at Ji Tianxing. He shouted in grief and indignation, "Ji Tianxing, I have already admitted defeat. What else do you want? I didn't assassinate you, nor did I become your enemy. Don't go too far." Ji Tianxing looked at him indifferently and sneered. "That day when I was being chased by Demon General Dark Knight, your actions, could it be that you have forgotten? All these years, you have worked hard for Long Zitian. Do you dare to not admit the dirty deeds you have done? Of course, let's not talk about these things. I am here today to take revenge for that day. You should still remember the words I said to you when I escaped from the city gate." Yu Tianhong's expression changed drastically. He immediately recalled the words Ji Tianxing had said back then. "One day, I will make you regret what you have done today. At that time, even if you kneel down and beg me, it will be useless." At that time he was complacent. He thought that Ji Tianxing would not be able to escape the demon general's pursuit, and would die without a doubt. Therefore, he didn't take those words to heart at all. He treated them as the desperate wails of a dying person, which could only make him a joke. But he never would have thought that those words would come true so quickly. Thinking of this, Yu Tianhong was filled with grief and indignation. He was humiliated to the extreme. He shouted in a hoarse voice, "Ji Tianxing, what do you want to do?" Ji Tianxing looked at him with a smile and said indifferently, "What do I want to do? It's very simple. Crawl in front of me, and kowtow to me in apology. Then you write a memorial to the emperor. Write down the crimes that Long Zitian forced you to do in full detail, and hand it to the emperor." Yu Tianhong subconsciously roared, "Don't even think about it." Ji Tianxing was not angry. He sneered and said, "Ha ha ha, you are really a lowly person. It was obviously Long Zitian, who used the divine venomous insect to control you and coerce you to work for him. And you are used to being a lackey. You would rather die than betray him. You even risked your life to protect him. TSK. People like you are really a lowly wretch." Yu Tianhong was insulted in public. He was so humiliated that he vomited 3 mouthfuls of black blood in grief and indignation. The surrounding 10,000 people, when they heard Ji Tianxing's words, vaguely understood something. They all began to discuss. Ji Tianxing saw that Yu Tianhong was silent, and his expression kept changing. He was hesitating and weighing the pros and cons. He continued to say, "Yu Tianhong, if you do as I say, not only will I spare your lowly life, I will also help you get rid of the divine venomous insect." Chapter 1129. The power of the divine venomous insect made Yu Tianhong tremble with fear. Even if Ji Tianxing did not promise him any benefits, after being tortured a few times, he would have a mental breakdown and be forced to agree to Ji Tianxing's conditions. What's more, Ji Tianxing had promised in public that if he obeyed, he would remove the divine venomous insect for him. How could he not be tempted? Ever since he was controlled by Long Zitian with the divine venomous insect, he had lost his freedom. A dignified divine general of the imperial court, a governor who guarded a region, had become Long Zitian's lackey. How humiliating was this? And now, Ji Tianxing had given him a chance to regain his freedom. He only had fear and hatred towards Long Zitian. There was no loyalty to him at all. How could he give up this opportunity? He only thought for a moment and nodded. He looked up at Ji Tianxing and said, "Ji Tianxing, I can agree to your conditions. But so many people are watching. You can't go back on your promise. Otherwise, even if I have to risk my life, I will make you lose your reputation." Ji Tianxing looked at him indifferently and sneered. "The one who will lose his reputation is you. You are just a dog now. You have no right to negotiate with me." Puff. Yu Tianhong was filled with grief and indignation. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. But he had no choice. He could only endure the humiliation and indignation. He used his arms to support himself, and slowly climbed up the city wall. He crawled slowly on the ground, and climbed up the stairs beside the city wall. Then, he climbed up the stairs step by step. The 10,000 people around the city gate also felt deeply humiliated. They all lowered their heads with pale faces, and did not dare to make a sound. Yu Tianhong was their spiritual leader, and the god of war they worshipped. But now the god of war was like a dead dog, being humiliated and manipulated by others. Many people and soldiers secretly thought that if it were them, they would rather commit suicide on the spot than be humiliated like this. But Yu Tianhong still wanted to drag out an ignoble existence. This made many commoners and soldiers question and despise him. The glorious image of Yu Tianhong in everyone's hearts collapsed at this moment, becoming a synonym for humiliation. From now on, he would forever be nailed to the pillar of shame. Even after what happened today, he was still the divine general of the West Wilderness, guarding Manga City. He was no longer the god of war in everyone's hearts, nor was he some spiritual leader. After a long time, Yu Tianhong climbed up the city wall with difficulty, under the gaze of more than 10,000 people. He came to Ji Tianqing's side, knelt at Ji Tianqing's feet, and kowtowed to apologize in front of everyone. Then, following Ji Tianqing's instructions, he took out a jade slip on the spot and inputted his soul's information into it. He recorded all the crimes that Long Zaiqian had coerced him with the divine venomous insect and ordered him to do in detail in the jade slip. He originally hated Long Zaiqian to the bones. Now that he exposed Long Zaiqian's crimes to the monarch, he naturally spared no effort. After all, he was also afraid of Long Zaiqian's revenge and hoped that Long Zaiqian would be severely punished by the imperial court. It would be best if he could be executed. A quarter of an hour later, he finished writing the memorial and cast a spell to send out the jade slip. Whoosh! The jade slip turned into a streak of golden light and instantly rushed high into the sky, flying towards the direction of the imperial court. After doing all this, he heaved a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He looked at Ji Tianqing with pleading eyes and said, "Ji Tianqing, I have done as you asked. Now it's time for you to fulfill your promise and remove the divine venomous insect for me." Ji Tianqing glanced at him and sneered. "I said that I would remove the divine venomous insect for you, but not now. Don't worry, wait for the imperial court to deal with Long Zaiqian. After this matter is over, I will find you." After saying that, he put away the 1,000 venomous insect altar and the spirit jade throne, turned around and flew into the sky, leaving Mang City. Yu Tianhong lay on the city wall, looking at his departing figure. He was so angry that his whole body trembled, and he was so sullen that he almost went crazy. After a long time, when Ji Tianqing's figure disappeared into the horizon, he turned around. He turned his head and looked at the city gate, at the more than 10,000 people on the street. But as far as his eyes could see, he saw that everyone's eyes were filled with deep disappointment and disdain. Even those subordinates and soldiers who were loyal to him were looking at him coldly and indifferently. There was no longer a trace of respect in their eyes. This scene made Yu Tianhong even more indignant. He waved his fists in anger and smashed them on the city wall below him. Boom! Amidst the deafening noise, the city wall was smashed by his fist. More than half of the city wall collapsed, and bricks and stones flew everywhere. Countless civilians and soldiers were frightened and fled in panic. In the blink of an eye, the more than 10,000 people gathered at the city gate scattered like birds and beasts. The street became empty. Yu Tianhong's heart was like dead ashes. He silently circulated his energy and reformed his body. Soon his legs and feet were restored. He walked down the city wall in a daze and staggered towards the city lord's mansion. There were more than 300 guards on the city wall, and more than a dozen guard captains and commanders. But everyone looked at him with complicated eyes. No one came to help him, and no one cared about him. The divine general of the Western Wilderness had become so desolate. Soon 5 days passed. Late at night on the 5th day, Ji Tianqing returned to the emperor's mansion in Zhongzhou City. He meditated in the room and used dozens of spirit stones to recover his magic power. A few hours later, the sky was bright. Ji Tianqing finished his meditation and walked out of the room. The plan is almost done. Dozens of noble families in Zhongzhou and the divine general of the Western Wilderness have jointly exposed Long Zaiqian to the imperial court. 10 days have passed. I believe the imperial emperor has thought about how to deal with this matter. He thought to himself, He was about to send a jade slip to Long Yunxiao to ask about the imperial court situation. But at this moment, the voice of the guard commander came from outside the door. Reporting to the region lord, His Majesty the Emperor has come to visit. He is waiting for you in the study. He said that he has something to discuss with you. Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and smiled. He said to himself, Haha, I was just talking about him, and he has already come to find me. On the matter of dealing with Long Zitian, Long Yunxiao is even more anxious than me. When he rushed to the study, he saw Long Yunxiao standing in the study with a stack of dark golden documents inlaid with jade in his hand. Seeing him enter the study, Long Yunxiao smiled. His eyes lit up and he said excitedly, Tianxing, where have you been? Why haven't I seen you for 10 days? You don't know, but in these 10 days, many wonderful things have happened in Zhongzhou. It's really earth-shattering and shocking. You actually missed it. What a pity. Long Yunxiao had always been a steady, cultured, and refined person. It was rare for him to be this excited and agitated. Ji Tianxing saw his reaction and guessed the reason. He asked with a playful smile, Emperor, something that can make you so excited must be extraordinary. Chapter 1130. Ji Tianxing's words startled Long Yunxiao. He immediately withdrew his excitement and wore a wry smile. Tianxing, this matter is no small matter, and involves a lot of people. How can the emperor make such a hasty decision? Even if the imperial court wants to punish Long Zitian, they have to investigate clearly and confirm all the evidence before they can make a judgment. Hearing him say this, Ji Tianxing nodded to show that he understood. I understand. The imperial court must be careful and cautious in making any decisions. Moreover, this matter concerns the princes of the imperial court, as well as the two great families and countless rich and powerful families. Almost a quarter of the noble families of the human clan are involved in this matter. Even if the imperial court uses all their strength, it is impossible to investigate clearly within 10 days. In that case, the imperial court will have to wait at least 1 or 2 months to punish and sentence Long Zitian. Long Yunxiao thought for a moment and nodded. The imperial emperor attaches great importance to this matter. He has been investigating this matter for the past few days and treats it as the imperial court's top priority. Although it won't take as long as 2 months, it will definitely take a month. As he spoke, he placed a stack of documents in front of Ji Tianxing. Tianxing, don't be anxious. Long Zitian will not be able to escape this time. We just need to wait patiently for the results. These were all the documents that the imperial court had approved of this matter. It involved the Duanmu family, the Morong family, the divine generals of the West Wasteland, and dozens of city lords and patriarchs of the rich and powerful families. The imperial emperor was furious. He stated in public that he would investigate this matter thoroughly and deal with it impartially. He would not let the human clan continue to be corrupted. In these 10 days, the imperial court had captured the leaders of hundreds of forces, including the city lords and patriarchs. The entire Flying Dragon City was surrounded by the imperial court's imperial army. The forces under Long Zitian's command were all detained by the imperial court. His Flying Dragon Palace was also sealed up, and all his wealth was confiscated by the imperial court. Moreover, even Long Zitian himself was summoned back by the imperial court overnight and imprisoned in a secret room, not allowed to go out. The entire central region knew that Long Zitian, this big tree, had fallen. The weeds surrounding his subordinates had all been removed. No matter how the imperial court deals with him in the end, he is completely finished. The forces that he built for half of his life will be completely destroyed. Long Yunxiao told Ji Tianxing about what had happened in the past 10 days, and told him about the current situation in the central province. After listening, Ji Tianxing made up his mind. He nodded slightly and said, The development of the situation is basically the same as what I expected. However, there would always be some clues about Long Zitian controlling the two aristocratic families, the West Baron divine generals, and the rich and powerful families. I don't believe that the imperial court and the imperial emperor don't know anything. Long Yunxiao restrained his excitement and said with a grave expression, That's right. A few years ago, The sovereign emperor noticed the signs and roughly understood this matter. But I also don't know why the emperor didn't take the initiative to bring up this matter. Nor did he warn Long Zetian. Tianqing, could it be that the sovereign emperor already knew about Long Zetian's crimes, and might bend the law for personal gain, and be lenient? Tianqing shook his head and sneered. It's not to the extent of bending the law for personal gain. If the matter is blown up, even if the sovereign emperor does it for the world to see, he will still deal with it impartially. I just feel that no one can guess the sovereign emperor's thoughts. I'm afraid that he will give Long Zetian a way out, and let him escape death, giving him a chance to make a comeback. Long Yunxiao frowned and said with a gloomy expression, "That's right. No one can guess the sovereign emperor's thoughts. Even I can't guess his thoughts. But don't worry, even if the sovereign emperor spares Long Zetian's life, I will not let him go. This is the best chance for me to completely destroy him. How can I let him have a chance to make a comeback?" Tianqing nodded and asked with a grave expression, "Did the sovereign emperor mention the 10,000 gu altar or me?" Long Yunxiao frowned and recalled for a moment before nodding. "The sovereign emperor did not specifically mention you, but he did mention this matter once in the study room. At that time, only I, the imperial tutor, and the sovereign emperor were present. The sovereign emperor mentioned the 10,000 gu altar, saying that it was an ancient evil item that caused the extinction of the gu race. This item has been passed down to this day, and will only bring disaster to the world. It must be destroyed to prevent future troubles. The imperial tutor mentioned that the 10,000 gu altar had fallen into your hands. He believed that you would make good use of it. The sovereign emperor didn't seem to agree at that time, but he didn't say anything." Long Yunxiao paused for a moment and added, "I can feel that the sovereign emperor seems to be deliberately avoiding you. Even when he was dealing with Long Zetian, he rarely mentioned you." Tianqing frowned, and thought for a moment before revealing a playful smile. He muttered, "Perhaps the sovereign emperor wants to protect me. He doesn't want me to be in the limelight, and become the target of public criticism." "That's possible." Long Yunxiao nodded in agreement. Next, the two of them talked about some other trivial matters. They were all about the imperial court and the central continent. In the end, the two reached a consensus. Long Yunxiao bowed and was about to leave. "Tianqing, I will keep an eye on the imperial court. I will not give Long Zetian a chance to make a comeback. He has made a lot of preparations before and eliminated a lot of evidence and witnesses in an attempt to reduce his crime. However, I will keep an eye on him so that he can't act recklessly. You don't have to worry about the imperial court. Just wait patiently for the results." Tianqing nodded and said, "Okay, I will need you to pay more attention to Central State and the imperial court. Don't let Long Zetian escape." Long Yunxiao cupped his hands and said goodbye. Then he turned around and left the study. Tianqing sat alone in the study. He picked up a stack of documents on the desk and read them one by one. After about an hour, he had finished reading most of the documents. At this time, the guard commander came to the door and reported respectfully. "Reporting to the region lord, the prince of the water clan Tai Yi has come to visit." Tianqing immediately put down the documents and raised his eyebrows. He smiled and said, "What's the occasion today? Long Yunxiao had just left, and now Tai Yi was here? I also have something to look for him. It's convenient for him to come." After saying that, he asked the guard commander to bring Tai Yi to the study. Not long after, Tai Yi was led by the guard commander to the door of the study. As soon as he entered the study, he smiled and said to Tianqing, "Tianqing, I have long wanted to visit you and ask you some things. When I heard that you came out of seclusion, I hurried over." Tianqing stood up to greet him and greeted him. After the two exchanged greetings, they sat down and chatted while drinking tea. Tai Yi looked at him with shining eyes and said with emotion, "I was worried that it would not be easy for you to deal with the third prince. I didn't expect you to be so strong that you directly used your trump card and took away his treasure." Chapter 1131. Tai Yi was looking for Tianqing mainly to ask about Long Zetian. In these 10 days, many things had happened in Central Province, and many rumors had spread. Tai Yi had a powerful intelligence network, so of course he knew about the news and Long Zetian's movements. He just wanted to ask Ji Tianxing what his plans were, and if there was anything he needed his help with. However, Ji Tianxing declined his good intentions. Tai, thank you for your kind help, but I don't have any plans for the time being, so I won't trouble you. Speaking of which, I have something I want to talk to you about. Tai looked expectant. He quickly asked, is there anything I can help you with? Just tell me. Ji Tianxing smiled and said in a playful tone, Xiao Han, the divine general of Donglin who guards the East Sea, has had many dealings with your imperial court. You should be familiar with him, right? Hearing this, Tai looked confused and asked with a frown, what? Did Xiao Han offend you, and you want to attack him? But before, didn't you two go to my imperial court together? Didn't you seem to have a good relationship? Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said with a smile, you misunderstand. I don't want to harm him. I just want to know more about him, and ask for some information. You don't have to ask about the specific reasons. Just tell me what you know. Only then did Tai reveal a look of understanding. He nodded and said, so that's how it is. Xiao Han's character was still relatively upright. He doesn't covet benefits or power, nor does he bend the law for personal gain. He's always done things impartially. Speaking of which, this guy is very loyal to the imperial court. No matter how we bribed or tried to rope him in, he didn't waver at all. He gave father a headache. Ji Tianxing smiled playfully. Fortunately, Xiao Han is a decent person. If he was bribed by you, who knows how many bays and territories we would have lost. Tai was a bit embarrassed and waved his hand. Ahem. Let's not talk about this. Let's talk about Xiao Han. Xiao Han was neither the most famous, nor the most powerful among the 4 immortal generals of the human clan. However, he is trusted by the human imperial court the most. This man is very steady and steady. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is very shrewd and cunning. Ji Tianxing listened silently, and his understanding of Xiao Han increased. About half an hour later, Tai told him everything he knew. Then, he took out a jade slip from his interspatial ring, and handed it to Ji Tianxing. Xiao Han is a human divine general guarding the border of the Eastern Sea. He often interacts with the imperial court of our race. Of course, we know him very well, and have investigated him in detail. This is the information in my hands. It records everything about Xiao Han. If you have time, you can slowly study it. Ji Tianxing accepted the jade scroll, and cupped his hands. Tai, thank you for your help. Tai waved his hand and said seriously, we are brothers. There is no need to thank me for such a small thing. The two chatted for a while more before Tai bid farewell, and left Tianxing Palace. Ji Tianxing returned to his room, and took out the jade scroll to read the information in it. The information Tai gave him was extremely detailed. There were more than 100,000 words, and it recorded everything about Xiao Han. It took him 4 hours to finish reading the information from beginning to end. Through this information, he learned about Xiao Han's background and experiences. Xiao Han was born in a mysterious and ancient aristocratic family, the Xiao clan. The Xiao clan was a huge force that could be compared to the 3 ancient aristocratic families. It had 1,000 years of history since it was founded. Its family background was deep, and had a long history. However, the Xiao clan had always lived in seclusion in a mysterious forbidden land, and rarely appeared in front of the world. This hidden aristocratic family did not stir up trouble in the central state, nor did they fight for power. Therefore no one knew about them. However, every disciple who walked out of the Xiao clan was an outstanding martial arts genius. Every 30 years or so, 1 or 2 Xiao clan disciples would leave the forbidden land, and enter the central state. From then on, the Xiao clan disciples would rise like comets. Their reputation would spread quickly across the continent, and they would become a powerful force. 800 years ago, one of the Xiao clan disciples had made great contributions to the human imperial court. He was conferred the title of Divine General of Donglin, and guarded a region. Since then, the Xiao clan had produced 3 divine generals, all of whom guarded the borders for the human race. Xiao Han was the 3rd divine general of the Xiao clan, and he was also the most famous powerhouse in the Xiao clan. Over the past 1,000 years, The Shao clan disciples had spread their branches and established many powerful forces in the central state. However, the Shao clan that the world knew today was the clan founded by Shao Han. It occupied Wuxia city in the central state. Wuxia city was Shao Han's fief. It occupied 100 miles of land and had more than 4 million people. Among the 100 cities in the central state, Wuxia city's military and forces were considered top-notch. However, the Shao clan kept a low profile and did not associate with the other aristocratic families. They also did not stir up trouble. This ancient city, hidden among the mountains and rivers, had always been peaceful and stable. The people lived and worked in peace. Therefore, Wuxia city was not well known. It was not widely known by the people of the central state. As for the Shao clan, the ancient hidden sect, no one knew about them. Only the imperial courts, top aristocratic families, and forces knew about the Shao clan. After learning about this, Ji Tianqing focused on the Shao clan. The gift that Shao Han gave to Long Zaiqian was a treasure from 1,000 years ago. It was sealed with a formation created by Kenshin. Coincidentally, the Shao clan is also an ancient hidden sect aristocratic family. It seems that the problem lies with the Shao clan. He thought for a while and vaguely guessed some clues. The next morning, he instructed the housekeeper of the Tianqing Palace and left the imperial residence alone for Wuxia city. He wanted to go to the Shao clan in Wuxia city and ask them about this matter. Wuxia city was located in the northwest of the central state. It was 1,000,000 miles away from Zhengzhou city. Ji Tianqing flew for 6 days straight before he finally arrived at Wuxia city, covered in dust. When he arrived at Wuxia city, it was already the morning of the 7th day. The sun rose from the east, and the golden rays of the sun shone on the earth. He was flying thousands of feet high in the sky. Below his feet was an endless stretch of majestic mountains. The majestic mountains and huge mountains were filled with lush green forests that emitted a strong aura of green wood. 100 miles ahead, 3 huge mountains intersected. One of them was a huge valley, with a radius of more than 100 miles. The valley that was surrounded by mountains and had 2 rivers flowing through it was Wuxia city. Ji Tianqing flew over the mountains and arrived above Wuxia city. He looked down at the ancient city from above. He saw that the ancient city was surrounded by grayish-white stone walls. Chapter 1132. Ji Tianqing observed from the sky for a while before landing outside the city gates. Wuxia city was located in a remote area and in the middle of a mountain range. For ordinary martial artists and citizens, it was difficult to traverse. Therefore, there were not many citizens and merchants going in and out of the city gates. There were more than 50 black armored city guards guarding the city gates. They wore armor and carried swords, and their auras were iron-blooded. A few citizens and martial artists from the nearby villages were queuing up to be checked by the city guards. Ji Tianqing followed behind the line. After being checked, he paid 2 spirit stones in taxes before being allowed to enter the city. He calmly crossed the city gates and entered the ancient city. He walked toward the city center, as if he was taking a stroll. As he walked toward the city center, he looked at the architectural style of the city. The environment of the ancient city was clean and tidy. The buildings were very close together. The streets and alleys were bustling with people, and the sound of peddlers calling out their wares could be heard. But overall, Wuxia city did not give off the feeling of being bustling. It was quiet and leisurely. The citizens and peddlers in the city were leisurely and unhurried. This invisible atmosphere relaxed one's mind and made one feel inexplicably safe and happy. Ji Tianqing could see that the security of Wuxia city was very good. The people were simple and honest, and the citizens were very prosperous and stable. Of course, this was due to the Shao family. The Shao family controlled Wuxia city and managed it in an orderly and strict manner. 2 hours later, Ji Tianqing arrived at the city center and stood outside the gates of the city lord's mansion. Shao Han was the current head of the Shao family in Wuxia city. However, he guarded the East Sea border all year round and was not in Wuxia city. Therefore, the city lord guarding Wuxia city was not Shao Han, but his eldest son, Shao Changyu. When Ji Tianqing walked to the gates of the city lord's mansion, he was stopped by the guards. They questioned him about his identity and purpose. He took out the Region Lord's golden seal and said in a dignified voice, "I am Ji Tianxing, the Region Lord of Tianxin. I have something to discuss with your city lord. Quickly report to him." The guards saw that he was dignified and had an extraordinary aura, so they treated him with respect and did not dare to offend him. When they heard him call himself Ji Tianxing, the guards were shocked and looked at him with burning eyes. "Are you the legendary emperor's son, Lord Ji Tianxing? The #1 genius of our tribe, the youngest realm lord, and the most outstanding first prince is you, my lord?" The tone of the guards was very excited, and their eyes were filled with excitement and worship. They immediately bowed to him. Ji Tianxing put away the territorial lord's golden seal and nodded slightly. "That's me. Quickly go and report the news." Only then did the guards regain their senses. Two of them hurriedly turned around and entered the city lord's mansion to report the news. Ji Tianxing stood at the entrance and waited for 100 breaths of time. Then he heard footsteps coming from inside the mansion. Two guards accompanied a middle-aged man as they quickly walked out of the door and stopped in front of him. The leader of the group was a middle-aged man who looked to be about 40 years old. He was tall and thin, wearing a purple gold robe and a noble jade crown. His aura was outstanding and dignified. His figure, appearance, and temperament were 70% similar to Xiao Han. He quickly walked to Ji Tianxing and bowed with a smile on his face. "I am Xiao Changyu. May I ask if this is Lord Tianxin Territory Lord?" Ji Tianxing nodded and returned the greeting. "Greetings, City Lord Xiao." Xiao Changyu hurriedly waved his hands and said in fear and trepidation, I don't dare. Skyline Domain Lord, you're making things difficult for me. A year ago, I heard about the various legendary deeds of Lord Tianxin Territory Lord. I have always respected and admired you. I didn't expect that I would have the fate to see Lord Tianxin Territory Lord's face today. I am really lucky. I just don't know why Lord Ji has come to the small Wuyu city. Xiao Changyu's attitude towards Ji Tianxing was very respectful, and there was a hint of reverence hidden in his eyes. After all, Ji Tianxing's legendary deeds were all big events that shook the world. In the eyes of outsiders, not only was he extremely talented and powerful, he was also extremely arrogant and domineering. Xiao Changyu was very puzzled. He had nothing to do with Ji Tianxing, so why would Ji Tianxing suddenly come to Wuyu City? He couldn't help but feel worried. Ji Tianxing would cause disasters or big events wherever he went. The small Wuyu city couldn't withstand Ji Tianxing's torment. Ji Tianxing also saw through Xiao Changyu's thoughts. He smiled and waved his hand. City Lord Xiao, you don't have to be so distant and respectful to me. I have met your father once, and we have a good chat. We can be considered good friends. My visit to Wuyu City today won't bring you any trouble. I am here to find your father and understand some things. Hearing him say this, Xiao Changyu was stunned. He said in disbelief, You are friends with my father? My father didn't say anything about this. Lord Ji, I have been rude. Since you're here to look for my father, please come in and have a chat. Since there was this layer of relationship, Xiao Changyu was relieved and quickly invited Ji Tianxing into the city lord's mansion. He led Ji Tianxing into the mansion and sat down in the guest hall. He asked a maid to serve Ji Tianxing tea and then began to chat. Lord Ji, you should know that my father is far away in the Eastern Sea and not in Wuyu City. He rarely comes back. May I know why you are looking for my father? If it is not too urgent, you can tell me and I will pass on the message to my father. Ji Tianxing took a sip of tea and shook his head. This matter is very important. I am afraid I can't ask you to pass on the message. I can only discuss it with your father face to face. I know that a powerhouse like your father will definitely set up a teleportation array between Wuyu City and the Eastern Sea to make it convenient for him to travel back and forth. City Lord Xiao, please find a way to contact your father and ask him to come back to Wuyu City. I want to discuss this matter with him face to face. Xiao Changyu was a little hesitant and frowned. Ji Tianxing saw that he couldn't make up his mind, so he lied. City Lord Xiao, this matter is very important. Don't hesitate anymore, and immediately send a message to your father. You should know that the imperial court's third prince has been imprisoned, and the divine general of the Western Wilderness, has lost his reputation. I am here today because of this matter. Ah! Xiao Changyu suddenly turned pale with fright, and his eyes revealed a look of deep anxiety and worry. Of course he knew this news and knew that this matter was related to Ji Tianxing. Hearing Ji Tianxing's words, he suddenly had a bad premonition and was worried for his father. In the blink of an eye, his forehead was covered in sweat and his face was pale. He quickly cupped his hands and bowed. Lord Ji, this one will immediately contact my father and let him talk to you face to face. But no matter what, please believe Lord Ji that my father is honest and just. He is loyal and devoted to the imperial court and has absolutely no intention of disobeying you. This Xiao Changyu, I'm afraid he is scared out of his wits. Ji Tianxing was secretly laughing in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face and nodded expressionlessly. Yes, I know all this, but there are some things I must ask your father face to face. Chapter 1133. Ji Tianxing sat in the main hall for the time it took to brew a cup of tea, before Xiao Changyu hurriedly returned to the main hall. He quickly walked in front of Ji Tianxing and bowed with a solemn expression. Lord Ji, I have already sent a message to my father about what you said just now. I believe my father will be back soon. Please be patient and wait for a moment. Ji Tianxing slowly put down the teacup and nodded. The one who needs to be patient is you. Since you believe that your father is fair and honest, why are you so nervous? This, Xiao Changyu was speechless and did not know how to answer. Because your reputation is too great. Wherever you go, you will cause great trouble and shock the world. Even if my father is loyal and honest to the imperial court, it is inevitable that he will cause some trouble when he meets you. Even the divine general of the West Wilderness and the third prince of the imperial court fell in your hands. My father cannot withstand your torment. This was Xiao Changyu's true thought, but he could only keep it in his heart and did not dare to say it out loud. The two of them chatted awkwardly for a while. Then Xiao Changyu sat down to drink tea with him and waited anxiously. When Ji Tianxing finished the second cup of tea, the sound of footsteps came from the secret door at the back of the main hall. Young Master Ji, how have you been? The sound of footsteps gradually approached. Before the figure could be seen, a hearty laugh was heard. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Changyu turned their heads at the same time and saw Xiao Han in a purple robe and a dark red cloak striding into the main hall. When Xiao Changyu saw his father return, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly greeted him. Father, you are finally back. Lord Ji came to Wuxia City this time to investigate some things from you. He was worried and could not help but remind his father to be careful. But halfway through his words, Xiao Han waved his hand and interrupted him. Changyu, I am going to talk business with young Master Ji. You may leave. Xiao Changyu looked like he wanted to say something, but it was not good for him to say anything. He could only bow and leave the main hall. After he left, only Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han were left in the hall. Xiao Han sat down beside Ji Tianxing and asked with a smile. Young Master Ji, if you need anything from me, you could have just sent me a message. Why did you have to come all the way to Wuxia City? Ji Tianxing explained. This matter is of great importance, so I can only come to the Xiao family and talk to you face to face. Xiao Han nodded slightly and said with a calm expression. What is it? Young Master Ji, please speak your mind. Ji Tianxing didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. A month ago, I went to the Flying Dragon City to attend a banquet. At Long Zaiqian's birthday, I saw him take out a mysterious gift that was stored in a treasure box from 1,000 years ago. Long Zaiqian used it as a prize for his birthday celebration, saying that he would give it to whoever could break the seal. I cracked the array formation of the treasure box and obtained the gift. According to Long Zaiqian, that was a congratulatory gift from you. I want to know the origin and information of that gift. I hope Sir Divine Warrior can tell me the truth. Xiao Han listened carefully and nodded with a calm expression. Young Master Ji really came for Long Zaiqian's matter. What? Could it be that young Master Ji suspects me of colluding with Long Zaiqian? Ji Tianxing smiled and waved his hand. Sir Divine Warrior, please don't misunderstand. I just want to know the origin of that treasure. This is very important to me. Xiao Han obviously didn't believe him and asked, "Is it really just because of this matter?" "It's absolutely true." Ji Tianqing nodded with a serious expression. Xiao Han frowned in confusion. "My son just sent me a message saying that young Master Ji wants to investigate me and interrogate me about Long Zitian and the divine warrior of the West Wilderness." Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "Sir Divine Warrior, please don't misunderstand. That was just a temporary measure. Otherwise, why would City Lord Xiao be so anxious and call you back?" Xiao Han suddenly understood and shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "So that's how it is. Young Master Ji, those words of yours really scared my son quite a bit. You also know that our Xiao clan has always stood aloof from worldly affairs and didn't want to get involved in worldly disputes. My son's aptitude is dull. He's good at preserving, but not good at expanding. In the future, he won't be able to take on great responsibilities. That's why he was so easily scared by you." Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "City Lord Zhao's integrity is a good thing for Wuxia City. He was also worried about you, so he believed my words. As the saying goes, too much concern leads to confusion." Xiao Han waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's continue talking about that treasure. Since young Master Ji wants to know, then I'll be frank. That mysterious treasure box is an item passed down from our Xiao clan ancestors. It is said that it has a history of nearly 1,000 years. However, the seal on the box is too special. Even a spirit-refining realm expert can't break it. No one knows what's inside the box. Our ancestors also didn't leave any information about it, so no one paid attention to it. When I was young, I won first place in a clan competition. The clan elders gave me that treasure box as a reward. Unfortunately, this treasure box is too old. I couldn't break it, so I kept it in my spatial ring and didn't pay attention to it for many years." Ji Tianqing listened attentively and silently analyzed in his mind. Although Xiao Han didn't mention the Xiao clan, he knew that the so-called clan competition and the clan elders were referring to the hidden sect Xiao clan. Xiao Han continued, "More than a month ago, the Flying Dragon City suddenly sent me an invitation, inviting me to attend the third prince's birthday banquet and head to the Flying Dragon City for a banquet. To be honest, I've never had much contact with the third prince. I've only heard of some of his deeds. I've always kept a respectful distance from him and never had any dealings with him. However, he's still a prince of the imperial court. He sent a trusted aide to send me an invitation card, inviting me to the banquet. As a subject of the imperial court, it's not good for me to refuse. After much consideration, I decided to use the excuse of being busy with military affairs as an excuse to decline the invitation to the banquet. However, I wanted to take out a congratulatory gift to show my sincerity. I'm estranged from the third prince, so it's impossible for me to give him precious treasures and abundant resources. Therefore, I rummaged through my spatial ring and found the treasure box that had been unused for decades. I gave it to Long Zitian as a congratulatory gift." Speaking up to here, Xiao Han revealed a self-deprecating smile and sighed with a complicated tone. "I originally thought that there was nothing special about the treasure box, and that it must contain an ordinary treasure. Long Zitian probably guessed this, and took out the treasure box as a prize to liven up the atmosphere of the birthday banquet. However, we didn't expect that the treasure box contained the top refining material, star sand. Young Master Ji, I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. When I heard this news, I regretted it so much that my intestines turned green. Fortunately, this treasure fell into your hands in the end. I felt a little comforted." Chapter 1134. Ji Tianqing had already figured out the ins and outs of the congratulatory gift. Only now did he understand that this matter was actually a mistake. Xiao Han and Long Zitian's relationship was not good, but due to face he gave a worthless congratulatory gift. Long Zitian also understood this point, and thought that the congratulatory gift was very ordinary, so he took it out as a prize at the birthday banquet. But no one would have thought that in the end, this worthless congratulatory gift fell into his hands. He unlocked the seal of the treasure box, only to discover that it contained the priceless star sand. Long Zitian and Xiao Han were both very regretful, but he became the lucky one. However, he had already obtained the star sand, and in the future, he would use this material to reforge the broken sword. So it was impossible for him to return it to Xiao Han. Xiao Han was also very tactful, and did not have the thought of asking him to return the star sand. But Ji Tianxing's main purpose of looking for Xiao Han was to understand the origin of the treasure box. He had to get to the bottom of it, and get to the bottom of it. Lord Divine General, to tell you the truth, only I can break the seal of the mysterious treasure box, and it is very important to me. Please think carefully, what is the origin of that treasure box, and who made it? Xiao Han saw his solemn expression, and frowned as he carefully recalled. After a long while, he recalled what happened back then, and said in a deep voice, "Back then, when the family elders gave the treasure box to me, they said that the treasure box was the treasure of our Xiao family's ancestor. After that, I also investigated and asked, and it was said that the treasure box was found in the secret room of the Xiao family's ancestor. However, our Xiao family's ancestor did not leave any information about the treasure box, nor did he say what was inside." Xiao family's ancestor? Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and asked tentatively, "Lord Divine General, was the seal on the treasure box cast by the Xiao family's ancestor? That treasure box has 1,000 years of history, which means that the Xiao family's ancestor is a powerhouse from 1,000 years ago." Xiao Han frowned and thought for a moment, and after weighing for a while he nodded and said, "Our Xiao family's ancestor is indeed a powerhouse from 1,000 years ago. However, other than the ancestor himself, no one knows whether or not the treasure box was sealed by him." Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and thought to himself, "Back then, the manor head told me that Qinshin's 4 followers were Gu Yi and Xiao Shui. Previously, when I found Ren Huang Yi, I proved that these 4 words were the surnames of the 4 followers. If the Xiao clan's ancestor was also a follower of Qinshin, then it would prove that Gu Yi Xiao Shui had the word Xiao in his name. At the same time, it would also explain why the spirit formation that sealed the treasure case was a spirit formation created by Qinshin. As long as we can confirm that the formation on the treasure box was sealed by the Xiao clan's ancestor, everything will be solved." After analyzing it, he had already guessed the answer in his heart. Thus he asked Xiao Han, "Lord Divine General, may I ask if the Xiao clan's ancestor is still alive after 1,000 years?" This, Xiao Han was somewhat hesitant. He remained silent and refused to answer. Ji Tianxing guessed his thoughts and said with a sincere expression, "Lord Divine General, to be honest, before I came to Wuxia City, I already knew about your background. Of course, I didn't have any ill intentions when I investigated you. I just wanted to know more about the Xiao clan's ancestor. I found out that the Xiao clan is a reclusive ancient family. I also know that the Xiao clan is the pillar of the human race, and is loyal to the human race and the imperial court." After hearing what he said, Xiao Han's expression changed. After thinking for a while he nodded and said, "That's right. The Xiao clan lives in seclusion, and doesn't participate in the disputes of the continent. They have always kept a low profile. However, the imperial court and the top families of the continent all know of the Xiao clan's existence. With young Master Ji's power and status, it's normal for you to be able to find out about the Xiao clan. Since you already know, I won't hide it from you. The Xiao clan's ancestor is the founder of the Xiao clan. My clan's ancestor has lived for 1,000 years, and should still be alive. However, the ancestor has long been indifferent to worldly affairs, and has been in seclusion for countless years. He hasn't even asked about the family matters of the Xiao clan for 200 to 300 years. To be honest, ever since I left the Xiao clan and came to the central region, I haven't seen the ancestor for more than 100 years. I don't know about his whereabouts. I can't be sure if the ancestor is still in the clan." Xiao Han paused for a moment and looked deeply at Ji Tianxing. With a serious expression he said, "Young Master Ji, if you want to look for my clan's ancestor, I advise you to give up on this idea. The Xiao clan lives in seclusion and doesn't participate in the disputes of the factions. They also don't want to be involved with the worldly affairs. Other than the Shao clan's disciples, outsiders are not allowed to enter the Shao clan. Even the emperor and prince of the imperial court are no exception. Ji Tianqing was silent for a while. He stood up and said to Shao Han with a serious expression, "Lord Divine General, I understand what you mean. However, this matter is extremely important to me. Even if the hope is slim, I have to try my best to meet him. I hope that Lord Divine General can do me a favor. Ask the Shao clan to make an exception, or provide me with clues to find the Shao clan's ancestor." After saying that, he bowed deeply to Shao Han. His attitude was very sincere. Shao Han suddenly hesitated. His eyes flickered with uncertainty as he weighed the pros and cons. After pondering for a long time, he stood up and said to Ji Tianqing, "Young Master Ji, please get up. I promise you. However, I can't go against the ancestors' teachings and bring you to the Shao clan. I can only help you pass the message and report this matter to the Shao clan, so that the Shao clan's elders can make the decision. As for whether the ancestor is willing to meet you, it's not up to you or me to decide." Ji Tianqing heaved a sigh of relief and nodded with a smile. "Of course I understand. I'm already very grateful that Lord Divine General is willing to help me." Shao Han nodded and said seriously, "Then it's settled. I'll send a message immediately and report this matter to the Shao clan. Young Master Ji, please return to the central region city and wait for my news. Once there's a lead, I'll send a message to inform you. At that time, we'll discuss the next step. What do you think?" "That's good." Ji Tianqing nodded and agreed. He cupped his hands and bowed. "Thank you for your trouble, Lord Divine General. I won't disturb you any longer, and will return to the central region now. Take care, young Master Ji." Shao Han cupped his hands in return and sent him out of the city lord's mansion. After that, Ji Tianqing left Wuxia city and flew into the sky as fast as lightning, rushing back to the central region city. After he left, Shao Han returned to his study and took out a jade slip to send a message to the Shao clan. Shao Changyu stood at the side respectfully. After he sent out the jade slip, he couldn't wait to ask, "Father, why did Ji Tianqing come to find you this time? This person's reputation is too great. He's a person who can stir up a storm in the world. If he wants to harm our Shao clan, I'm afraid it'll cause a storm." Shao Han shook his head and said with a solemn expression, "Changyu, although Ji Tianqing is arrogant and domineering, he has his own principles and won't act recklessly." Chapter 1135. On the way back to Central State City, Ji Tianqing was still silently calculating. Currently, the demon race's influence is rapidly growing. They are madly attacking the Western Wilderness and the Eastern Sea, harassing the human race's borders. Chaotic times are coming. Soon, the various races will definitely fight the demon race to the death. Between me and the Demon Emperor, there will be a fated confrontation. Before that, I must find Kenshin's 4 followers as soon as possible and ask them to come out and help. Only then can we resist the demon race. If Shao clan's ancestor is also one of Kenshin's followers, then there are only 2 followers left. I still need to continue searching. 5 days later, Ji Tianqing returned to Central State City. After returning to the monarch mansion, he summoned the steward and asked a few questions. Knowing that the 10 days he was away were peaceful and nothing major happened, he entered a secret room with peace of mind and went into seclusion to cultivate. Although, he urgently wanted to find Kenshin's 4 followers and establish his own faction. But he was very clear that increasing his own strength was the most important thing. The most important thing. If he was not strong enough, even if he found the 4 followers, they might not be willing to come out and help him. Therefore, whenever he had a bit of time and leisure, he would go into seclusion to cultivate and strive to increase his strength. In a secret room filled with spiritual energy, he sat cross-legged on a jade throne. He quickly swallowed spirit stones and elixirs, cultivating the way of the sword soul. 5 days later, he had accumulated a vast amount of magic power and nurtured his soul to an extremely powerful level. Then, his soul entered Kenshin's tomb and began to comprehend and practice the 9 swords of the burial of heaven. Whether it was the sword drawing style or the sword thrusting style, They all required millions of times of diligent practice to achieve the strongest effect in power. The process of cultivation was very dry and drained a lot of magic power. He repeatedly drew and thrusted the sword, condensing his spirit, will and magic power into one, constantly tempering his sword arts, and comprehending his own sword intent. For 10 whole days, he did not sleep or rest, drawing and thrusting the sword more than 10,000 times. The gray fog in Kenshin's tomb was broken apart by him bit by bit, revealing even more empty areas. The previously empty space with a radius of 10 miles gradually expanded to a radius of 15 miles. More patterns and lines appeared on the mysterious formation on the ground. Unfortunately, such a huge formation was still only the tip of the iceberg. Ji Tianqing observed and studied it many times, but he could not find any clues. Instead, he became more and more puzzled. Even with his attainments as a Formation Dao Grandmaster, he was unable to see through the mysteries of this grand array. He couldn't help but suspect that the grade of this mysterious grand spell formation far exceeded that of a soul-grade spell formation. It was at the nascent divinity level, or perhaps even beyond that. Unknowingly, half a month had passed. Through this half a month of closed-door cultivation, Ji Tianqing's cultivation had steadily increased, gradually advancing towards the 3rd level of the soul-refining realm. Moreover, his attainments in the way of the sword had doubled, and the power of the 9 swords of the burial of heaven was much stronger than before. The only thing he felt regretful about was that he still hadn't been able to comprehend his own sword intent. If he could add his own sword intent into the 9 swords of the burial of heaven and the soul-grade spell sword, he would definitely be able to bring his swordsmanship to the acme of perfection, possessing unimaginable power. But he also knew that something like comprehending sword intent could only be understood and not explained. Some sword Dao martial artists couldn't comprehend it their entire lives, but some people could inadvertently comprehend it. This kind of thing could only be left to nature, and could not be forced. On the morning of the 16th day, he ended his closed-door cultivation, and came out in high spirits. Not long after he walked out of the secret chamber, and returned to his room, the housekeeper of the residence hurried over to report the news. "Domain Lord, good news, there's great news." The old housekeeper's emotions were rather excited, and his spirits were high. He entered the room with a flushed face and bowed to him. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows, vaguely having a premonition in his heart, and hurriedly asked, "What good news has made you so excited?" The old housekeeper hurriedly said, "Sir, just yesterday, the imperial court issued an edict, announcing to the world. The 3rd prince, Long Zitian, used sorcery to control the head of the Duanmu family and the divine general of the West Wilderness, as well as the heads of hundreds of noble families. In the past 10 years, the 3rd prince has used sorcery to recruit soldiers and buy horses, constantly expanding his power, invading countless noble families and torturing countless people. He has committed heinous crimes and committed all kinds of evil, causing the people to complain and greatly damaging the prestige and dignity of the imperial court. After careful investigation and evidence collection, the imperial court finally confirmed the 3rd prince's crimes. Therefore, the imperial court has decided to put the 3rd prince on trial and announce the results to the world as a warning to others." When Ji Tianqing heard the news, he was immediately shocked, and a smile flashed in his eyes. "Well, it has been more than a month since the incident, and the news has already spread throughout the central region. The imperial court should also make a judgment." Housekeeper, in the edict announced by the imperial court, did it state the result of the judgment? How did the imperial court deal with Long Zitian? The old housekeeper said with a smile, "Of course it was announced, and it was already carried out yesterday. The imperial court has announced that the 3rd prince's crimes are unforgivable, and he must be severely punished to rectify the situation. The imperial court has decided to strip the 3rd prince of his identity as a prince, take back his fief, Flying Dragon City, and remove all his official positions and titles. He will be demoted to a commoner and sent to the northern border. All of the 3rd prince's power and wealth have been taken back by the imperial court, including his relatives and family. They have all been demoted to commoners and sent to the southern border. From now on, the third prince can only stay in the northern border to resist the invasion of the demon race. He will never be able to step into the central region, nor can he be an official," the old housekeeper said with great excitement. To him, the former imperial court prince was an incomparably noble person. Now that he had fallen to such a state, it was really shocking and unbelievable. But after Ji Tianqing heard it, he frowned, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "I didn't expect the imperial court's judgment to be like this. Although it sounds clear and logical and extremely solemn, in the end, this punishment is really too light," he muttered in his heart, very dissatisfied with the result of the punishment. In his opinion, with the crimes that Long Zitian had committed, the imperial court should at least sentence him to death. But the result was not so. Even if the imperial court stripped Long Zitian of his identity as a prince, confiscated all his properties, power, and wealth, and demoted him to a commoner, and sent him to the border to resist the demon race. But he was still alive and not executed. For a sinister, despicable, ruthless, and shrewd person like Long Zitian, all power and wealth were worldly possessions. As long as he was still alive, there was still hope, there was still a chance to make a comeback. Chapter 1136. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and dismissed the old housekeeper. He walked out of the Tianqing palace alone and left the monarch mansion. The old housekeeper did not enter Central State City and did not see the imperial court's announcement with his own eyes. He only heard the news reported by his subordinates. Therefore, Ji Tianqing wanted to enter Central State City and head to the city square to see the announcement posted by the imperial court. It was early in the morning, and the sun was rising from the east. Central State City was bustling with noise and excitement. There were many pedestrians, and it was very noisy. When he arrived at the city square, he saw that the square was already filled with people. Tens of thousands of people gathered in the square and surrounded the huge stone tablet in the center of the square. On the huge stone tablet that was 100 meters tall, there was a huge dark golden announcement. There were more than 10 lines of words written on it. The words were vigorous and powerful, showing the supreme majesty. It was signed with the imperial court's seal. Ji Tianqing quietly stood at the edge of the crowd. He kept a low profile and silently looked at the words on the announcement. He saw that the announcement was basically the same as what the old housekeeper said. The imperial court did not execute Long Zitian. They only demoted him to a commoner, took away all his wealth and power, and sent him to the border to resist the demon race. Of course, the announcement mentioned the divine general of the West Wilderness, Yu Tianhong. Although Yu Tianhong was controlled by Long Zitian using evil techniques, and had no choice but to do many evil deeds, he murdered countless powerful forces and innocent people. But he did not report what he knew and colluded with Long Zitian. He was willing to be his lackey, which was unforgivable. The imperial court decided to strip Yu Tianhong of his position and identity as the divine general of the West Wilderness, take away his land and family property, and return him to the imperial court's everlasting sacred mountain to guard the imperial court's imperial mausoleum forever. Just like this, the divine general Yu Tianhong, who was once incomparably glorious and respected by millions of people, became the imperial court's imperial mausoleum guardian. He could only stay in the imperial court's imperial mausoleum for the rest of his life. He could not take half a step out of the imperial mausoleum until he died alone. As for the position of divine general of the West Wilderness, the imperial court would soon choose a new candidate to succeed him. The imperial court's sentence for Yu Tianhong could not be said to be too harsh or too lenient. It was a normal situation. After all, Yu Tianhong was a spirit realm expert who had guarded the imperial court's border for decades. He was coerced by Long Zitian and was only an accomplice. The emperor was benevolent, so it was understandable that he did not order him to be executed. While Ji Tianqing was reading the announcement, he could hear the discussions and exclamations of countless commoners. The people of Central Continent City were all shocked and incredulous when they saw the imperial court's announcement. To many cultivators and commoners, This was undoubtedly the most explosive news in the past few decades. It was hard to believe that a prince of the imperial court and a divine general of the Western wilderness would end up like this. Heavens, the imperial court actually issued such an edict? This is simply too shocking. Hasn't the third prince of the imperial court always been conscientious and loyal to the imperial court? How could he be so evil and commit so many evil deeds? In the past, I heard that the third prince of the imperial court had extraordinary talent and was second only to the emperor. He almost became the emperor. Sigh. People's hearts are hard to fathom. Who would have thought that a prince of the imperial court would do such cruel, heartless, despicable and shameless things? That third prince is a low-key person. There are very few rumors about him in Central Continent, and no one knows him. Even if he is an evil person, there is nothing strange about it. What I can't understand the most is that the divine general of the Western wilderness is actually a lackey controlled by the third prince. This is too unbelievable. The divine general of the Western wilderness has a great reputation. He has always been strict with his army and is famous for his outstanding military achievements. I used to worship him a lot. Now that I think about it, I really feel regret and shame. I actually worship such a despicable person. Whether it is the third prince or the divine general of the Western wilderness, they are all top nobles of the human race. They even affect the face of the imperial court. After such a thing happened, the imperial court actually had the courage to announce it to the world. It is truly admirable. Yes, our clan's imperial court is just and strict. The emperor is upright and outspoken. He has always been praised by the world. Even if the emperor's son is involved, he will still deal with it impartially. As a citizen of the human race, I am proud of the imperial court's fairness and strictness. Many commoners discussed and expressed their own views on this matter. Although this was a shocking scandal to the imperial court of the human race, but the imperial court's attitude and way of dealing with it made countless people feel proud and admirable. However, the demon race and the aquatic race's warriors and citizens did not think so. They all raised their doubts. Half a month ago, there was a rumor in Central Continent City. It is said that Ji Tianxing exposed the third prince's scheme and had something on him. That was why the third prince's crimes were exposed and his reputation was ruined. Yes, I also heard about this. It is said that Ji Tianxing and the third prince are not on good terms. They hate each other, and that is why this happened. Ha ha ha. If it was not for Ji Tianxing exposing the third prince, the imperial court of the human race would have turned a blind eye to the third prince's crimes. I think the imperial court of the human race is not as fair as the rumors say. According to the laws of the aquatic race, the third prince's crimes are not even enough to be sentenced to death 10 times. The imperial court of the human race's sentence is too light. They are obviously biased towards the third prince. Sigh, you can't say that. After all, the third prince is the imperial emperor's son. How can the imperial emperor bear to sentence him to death? No matter how many innocent people the third prince has poisoned, those people are nothing but ants to the human imperial emperors. To a supreme expert like the imperial emperor, there is no absolute good or evil. Everything depends on the method, the ability, and the result. Maybe in his eyes, the third prince lost to Ji Tianxing because his skills were not as good as his opponent. But his crimes are not worthy of death, right? I heard that there is an ancient saying in the human race that the winner is king and the loser is a bandit. The battle between the third prince and Ji Tianxing is like a battle between gods. Whoever loses will be exposed and become a detestable sinner. But in reality, which one of those great figures and experts isn't stained with blood and full of evil? The discussions of the aquatic race, and the alien race naturally fell into Ji Tianxing's ears. But he did not care about it at all. He was too lazy to care and explain. Of course, a powerful person should have the demeanor and bearing of a powerful person. No matter whether it was right or wrong, it would be judged by the future generations. How would the ordinary people know the truth and the cause of the matter? Those people were just standing there and talking. They were just guessing based on their own imaginations. He quietly left the crowd and returned to the imperial residence. Not long after he returned to Tianqing Palace, the guard commander came to report that the emperor, Long Yunxiao, had come to visit. Chapter 1137. When Ji Tianqing saw Long Yunxiao's face didn't look too good. He stood alone in the main hall with a gloomy expression and a touch of coldness between his brows. Ji Tianqing could guess his thoughts and knew the reason without asking. Because his mood was the same as Long Yunxiao. The two of them exchanged a few words, and after sitting down, Ji Tianqing asked directly, "Is the imperial court's decision the emperor's idea?" Long Yunxiao nodded and said expressionlessly, "Actually, this is not only the emperor's idea, but also the persuasion of the imperial tutor and the ministers. In any case, Long Zitian is the emperor's son, and the most outstanding among the princes. How can the emperor bear to directly kill him? In the eyes of the emperor and the ministers, Long Zitian is indeed an ambitious and ruthless person, but unfortunately, he took the wrong path. His temperament is a bit extreme, and he will do anything to achieve his goal." The emperor gave him a light sentence and hoped that after this incident, he would realize his mistakes and turn over a new leaf. When he spoke up to hear, he paused for a moment, and then a wisp of a bitter smile curled up on the corners of his mouth. He said, "The imperial preceptor told me that the imperial monarch and the imperial preceptor had a discussion in the study one night. At that time, the imperial tutor mentioned Long Zitian and this emperor. The emperor said with emotion that to be the emperor of the human race, not only must he have the benevolence to help the world, he must also be resolute and firm. This emperor has more than enough benevolence in dealing with matters, but not enough firmness. I can only rule the world in peace and prosperity, and it is difficult to forge ahead. And Long Zitian is too shrewd, too narrow-minded, and his methods are too sinister and ruthless. He can be an ambitious and ruthless person in troubled times, but in the end, he is not the emperor. This emperor and Long Zitian are both the most outstanding princes, but the emperor is not too satisfied with us. According to the emperor's idea, it would be best if the two of us could combine our natures." Long Yunxiao's tone was a bit lonely, and even a bit self-deprecating. Ji Tianqing could guess that it was probably because the monarch was comparing him and Long Zitian's strengths and weaknesses, which made him somewhat unhappy in his heart. However, this was the celestial emperor's family matter. He had no right to interfere or comment. Most importantly, he had not reached the level and height of an imperial emperor, so he could not understand the mentality of an imperial emperor. After a moment of silence, he patted Long Yunxiao's shoulder and comforted him. "The monarch stands at the top of the continent and looks down on all living beings. His perspective and starting point are different from ours. It's not something you and I can understand. As the old saying goes, no one is perfect. Even a sage must be judged by his merits and demerits. You don't have to care too much about the celestial emperor's evaluation. Just stick to your heart and be yourself. In any case, Long Yunxiao's reputation has already been ruined. You are the biggest winner. In the future, the position of human emperor will definitely be yours. What else do you have to worry about?" Long Yunxiao nodded slightly and said with a solemn expression, "Thank you. I already know what you said. However, as long as Long Zitian doesn't die, I won't be able to truly feel at ease." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and asked with interest, "What are you going to do next?" Long Yunxiao said coldly, 2 days later, the imperial court's halberd guards will escort Long Zitian out of Central State and rush to the northern desert border. The emperor is not willing to execute his son, so he will give Long Zitian a way out and let him go to the border to turn over a new leaf. However, I will definitely not let Long Zitian go. I will definitely cut the weeds and eliminate the roots to prevent future troubles. From Central State to the northern desert border, the journey is long and dangerous. I will definitely not let Long Zitian reach the border alive." Ji Tianqing immediately understood his meaning and guessed his next plan. He nodded and said, "I have the same idea as you. Even if you don't do this, I will still do it." "No need." Long Zitian waved his hand and said, "You have already helped me too much. I will send someone to do it. There is no need to trouble you. Long Zetian is the emperor's son. If you assassinate him, it will inevitably cause disputes, and even make the emperor unhappy. I am different, so I don't have those scruples. Good. Ji Tianqing nodded in agreement and said in a serious tone. Then I will leave this matter to you. However, you must do it secretly. Don't leave behind any evidence or future troubles. Yes, I understand. Long Yunxiao nodded. After the two finished talking about Long Zetian, Ji Tianqing asked again. This time, Long Zetian's case involves a lot of people. Why did the imperial court only sentence Long Zetian and Yu Tianhong? What about the others? What about Morong family's Morong Zheng? Long Yunxiao frowned slightly and said in a low voice. Actually, the imperial court has another edict. However, it is a secret edict that is not made public. There is a list of names in the secret edict that involves more than 100 forces. Those forces that worked for Long Zetian and did evil deeds have all been punished. The imperial court has already dealt with them one by one. As for Morong Zheng, the Duanmu family that the emperor relies on the most has already been destroyed by you. If the monarch were to punish the Morong family severely, causing the Morong family's power to plummet, then the Yin family would be the only one left among the three great ancient families. This is definitely not the result that the emperor wants to see. The demon race is a great enemy and chaos is coming. The emperor has to consider the overall situation of the human race. He can only turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. Morong Zheng was coerced by Long Zetian and did many evil deeds. However, in the emperor's eyes, those were not unforgivable crimes. Therefore, the imperial court gave the Morong family a light punishment. They only verbally reprimanded Morong Zheng and confiscated many of the Morong family's properties and wealth. After this incident, the Morong family's power has weakened a lot. They will not cause any more trouble in the future. They can only hide their strength and bide their time. Ji Tianqing frowned and asked, Did the emperor mention the 10,000 gu altar? Long Yunxiao asked in a playful tone. Why? Have you seen the power of the Gu Dao divine artifact? Are you afraid that the emperor will remember this treasure and confiscate it? That's not it. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said seriously, The 10,000 gu altar is an evil artifact after all. Now that it has fallen into my hands, I haven't thought of how to deal with it. If I use this artifact to release gu poison on others and control them to work for me, then what's the difference between me and Long Zetian? But other than that, this artifact has no other effects. It's not very useful to me. Moreover, Morong Zheng, Yu Tianhong, and the leaders of dozens of powerful forces are still under the control of the gu poison. Since the imperial court knows about this matter, they will have to deal with it sooner or later. They can't be under the threat of the gu poison forever. Long Yunxiao nodded with a look of admiration and said, Tianqing, it's great that you can think like this. I just wanted to remind you that the emperor did mention the 10,000 gu altar. The emperor said that it is an evil artifact and cannot be allowed to be passed down. Otherwise, it will bring disaster to the human world and cause greater harm. The emperor's intention was to deal with the myriad gu altar after this matter was over. Chapter 1138. Long Yunxiao chatted with Ji Tianqing for a while, and then left. He still had to return to the imperial court to carry out his plan of eliminating the source of trouble. After he left, Ji Tianqing returned to his room and continued to meditate and cultivate. In the evening, the guard commander suddenly came to the door and reported to him. Reporting to the territorial lord, Madam is back. The guard commander's tone was a little anxious and contained a trace of excitement. When Ji Tianqing heard this, he was immediately stunned. He frowned in confusion and asked, Madam? What madam? The guard commander was also stunned for a moment and quickly explained, Of course it's your madam, my lord. It's Miss Yin. Ji Tianqing was suddenly enlightened. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, This is the first time I've heard you call her that. Just call her Miss Yin in the future. The guard commander quickly apologized and said, I know my mistake. Please forgive me, my lord. Miss Yin came to see you as soon as she returned to the imperial residence. She's waiting for you in the study. Okay, I know. You can leave. Ji Tianxing smiled and waved his hand to dismiss the guard commander. Then he got up and left the room, quickly rushing to the study. As soon as he entered the study, he saw a beautiful woman in a long white dress standing in the room. She had an ethereal air about her. After not seeing her for nearly 2 months, Yin Yao's figure and appearance had returned to normal. She was even colder and more beautiful than before. Her temperament was also more holy and noble. She was really like a goddess. She was standing in front of the bookcase, holding a bunch of ancient scrolls with both hands. She was engrossed in reading. A hint of doubt appeared on her beautiful face. Ji Tianxing slowed down and walked towards her. He stared at her and sized her up. His eyes also became very gentle. Although he and Yin Yao were already husband and wife and were very close, he was also used to Yin Yao's stunning appearance. However, when he saw Yin Yao again today, he was still captivated by her beauty and temperament. He still felt a sense of amazement. Without a doubt, Yin Yao was even more beautiful than before. Her temperament was also more transcendent. Most importantly, her strength had also increased tremendously. She had reached the half-soul refinement realm, and her entire body was filled with the aura of an expert. Yao Yao, when did you come back? Why didn't you say hello in advance? Ji Tianxing came to her side and asked with a smile. Yin Yao was awakened by him. She quickly put down the ancient scroll in her hand and turned to look at him. Tianxing. Her eyes were filled with gentleness. She opened her arms and hugged Ji Tianxing tightly, leaning into his embrace. Ji Tianxing held her in his arms and wrapped his arms around her slender waist. He rubbed his cheek against her forehead and long hair, revealing a satisfied smile. As the saying goes, absence makes the heart grow fonder. The two of them had been separated for nearly 2 months, and their hearts were filled with longing. Now that they were meeting again, he was naturally in a happy mood and couldn't help but want to be intimate with her. After a long time, the two of them calmed down. Ji Tianxing let go of Yin Yao in his arms. The two of them sat down and chatted as they drank tea. Yao Yao, you've benefited from a disaster. Your strength has reached the half-soul refinement realm. I believe that with your talent, you'll be able to break through to the soul refinement realm soon. Ji Tianxing held Yin Yao's hand and said with a serious expression, God teacher, hey, you came to find me before and talked to me about something. Any Thearchus son who has reached the soul refinement realm is already a transcendent expert and is not suitable to continue being a Thearchus son. According to the rules of the imperial residence, Thearchs who break through to the soul refinement realm only have 2 choices. They can stay in the imperial residence and continue to cultivate. In the future, they can become the god teacher of the imperial residence and teach the other Thearchs. Or they can leave the imperial residence to fulfill their ambitions and build their own forces. Some become the region lords and generals of various races. Some become powerful people, and some form powerful sects. However, most Thearchs will choose to leave. Very few will stay in the imperial residence to be a god teacher. Yin Yao listened attentively. After he finished, she nodded and said, This is the rule of the imperial residence. I've heard about it long ago. You've reached the soul refinement realm long ago, and I'll be able to break through to the soul refinement realm soon. We indeed have to consider our future. Tianxing, what do you plan to do? Ji Tianxing said without hesitation. Of course, I won't stay in the imperial residence to be a god teacher. That's too boring and boring. I'm the region lord of the imperial court. Of course, I have to leave the imperial residence to serve the imperial court and bring peace to this region. Moreover, the devil race is a great enemy. We still have too many things to do. Of course, we can't stay in the imperial residence and waste our time. Yin Yao nodded in agreement and said in a serious tone, Tianxing, I think so too. You can give God Teacher Heiyu an answer now. After I break through to the soul refinement realm, the two of us will leave the imperial residence together. All right. Ji Tianxing nodded and said with a smile, I'll send the guards to the Black Feather Palace later and report this decision to God Teacher Heiyu. Yin Yao nodded slightly and said in a low voice, Tianxing, I was in seclusion in the Cloud Soul Palace before. During that time, my soul gradually recovered, and I remembered many things. Ji Tianqing asked in confusion. What things? Aren't the memories of your soul complete? Yin Yao shook her head gently and explained. It's not the memories of my soul. It's the memories of half a year in the devil race. Back then, my body was controlled by the devil soul. My soul slept in the Neptunian god orb. But it was only recently that I began to recall my experiences in the demon race. Hearing her say that, Ji Tianqing's interest was piqued. He asked in anticipation, Oh, have you discovered the secret of the devil race? Or is it the demon emperor's scheme? Yin Yao nodded and said sternly, During the months I was in the demon emperor's base, I discovered something extremely strange. I couldn't understand it no matter how much I thought about it. However, I could vaguely sense that it was definitely unusual. It definitely had something to do with the demon emperor's scheme. As a result, I returned to the monarch's residence as quickly as possible to discuss this matter with you. Ji Tianqing realized the severity of the matter. He listened carefully and stared at her. Yin Yao frowned slightly. After a moment of silence, she said seriously, During those months, I stayed on the devil race's sacred mountain the entire time. I couldn't leave. Every month, on the night of the full moon, he would hear vague, weird, and strange demonic sounds coming from the blood river at the foot of the mountain. The sound was like the whispers and murmurs of ghosts, but also like the splashing of the river of blood. It was extremely strange and unique. Normally, the river of blood would be extremely calm. However, every full moon night, when the mysterious demonic sound appeared, the river of blood would become restless. It would roar and surge with a bloody aura. Furthermore, after I noticed this strange situation, I observed it carefully a few times. I once saw with my own eyes, a mysterious black shadow flashed in the surging blood river. Chapter 1139. Ji Tianqing frowned when he heard what Yin Yao said. The blood river at the foot of the holy mountain is indeed a little strange. It is said that the blood river has existed since the heavenly devil palace was founded. It has flowed for millions of years without drying up. For some reason, the demon race called the blood river the holy river. Based on what you said just now, I'm afraid that the blood river is not simple. There must be some shocking secret hidden in it. Yin Yao nodded and said with a serious expression, I think so too. Also, I carefully recalled those demonic sounds. They are all very ancient demon race language. I have been looking up information during this period, trying to figure out the meaning of those demonic sounds. Unfortunately, I searched the entire Cloud Soul Palace's library and didn't find any clues. Hearing her words, Ji Tianqing came to a sudden realization and asked, Yao Yao, when I entered the study just now, I saw you flipping through ancient books engrossed in them. Could it be that you were looking for clues? Yin Yao nodded. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and asked, Yao Yao, there is a curse in the demon race's bloodline. It will erupt on the night of the full moon every month, causing the demon race to mutate and suffer all kinds of pain. Do you think that the changes in the blood river and the demonic sounds you heard have something to do with the bloodline curse? Yin Yao said with certainty, I suspected this possibility before, but after careful analysis, it should have nothing to do with the bloodline curse. After all, I had already removed the bloodline curse for the demon race. That's right. I remember that the demon king once brought me, in my demonized state, to the heavenly devil palace to pay respects to an ancient statue. That statue was a giant demon with a very strange appearance. It actually had 3 heads, 9 arms and legs, and a pair of black and white wings on its back. The ancient demon king was very respectful to that statue, and even said some strange things at that time. There was also a strange sound coming from that statue, just like the demonic sounds I heard from the blood river. She paused for a moment before continuing in a solemn tone. Therefore, I suspect that the changes in the river of blood and that demonic sound are definitely related to the demon king's scheme. Demon Emperor's plot, Ji Tianqing muttered with a frown. Over the past year, the Devil Emperor has been keeping a low profile. He has barely shown himself. Even when I broke into the demon race's sacred mountain and the Saintess Palace, I didn't see him. Could it be that he's brewing some huge conspiracy? But what was he trying to do? What secrets does the river of blood hide? Both of them fell into silence. They frowned as they pondered and analyzed, but they didn't have the slightest clue. At this moment, a black figure suddenly flew out of Ji Tianqing's spatial ring. Shua! It was the figure of a tall middle-aged man. He was nearly 2 meters tall, and had a tall and straight figure. He wore a strange black robe. His body was not tall and sturdy, but he exuded an incomparably majestic aura that could shake the heavens and earth. It was a godlike aura that could make everything in the world tremble and worship him. His sudden appearance in the study caused the air in the study to freeze. It was filled with an indescribable aura of divine power. Ji Tianqing and Yin Yao were stunned. They raised their heads and looked at him at the same time. The wide and special black robe covered his body and face. The two of them couldn't see his appearance clearly. His body was between illusion and reality. It was very clear and real, but it didn't really exist. However, Ji Tianqing was no stranger to his aura. He immediately reacted and asked, "Burial of heaven? Is this your divine soul doppelganger? Have you recovered your strength?" The black-robed figure nodded slightly and said in a low and majestic voice, "Yes, I have recovered nearly 40% of my strength. My strength is even greater than before. Just now when I heard you talking about the river of blood and Ma'in, it reminded me of some ancient legends. That's why I couldn't help but reveal my divine soul doppelganger." Hearing him say this, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were stunned for a moment. Then they revealed expressions of pleasant surprise. "Burial of heaven? Do you know the secret of the river of blood? What ancient legend? Do you know the changes in the river of blood and the origin of the Ma'in?" Burial of heaven nodded slightly and said in a low and deep voice, "Recently, my strength has been constantly recovering. The fragmented memories of the past have also gradually emerged. I don't know why, but there are many stories and legends from ancient times in my memory. Legend has it that in ancient times, the demon clan worshipped the ancestor demon god. They regarded him as their father and spiritual leader. The ancestor demon god ruled the demon clan and conquered the world. He was always successful. He enslaved all the clans in the world and almost ruled the entire continent. Therefore, the demon clan worshipped the ancestor demon god crazily. Even after thousands of years, the demon clan still regards him as their eternal leader." Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao listened attentively. After he finished speaking, Ji Tianqing asked doubtfully, "Burial of heaven? I have also heard of this legend that you mentioned. But what does this have to do with the mystery of the river of blood?" Burial of heaven explained, "The demon clan's sacred mountain and heavenly devil palace were both built by the ancestor demon god. It is the holy land of the demon clan. However, in my ancient memories, when the sacred mountain and heavenly devil palace were built, there was no river of blood. After the great war of the gods in ancient times, the ancestor demon god fought with the gods of various clans. In the end, he mysteriously disappeared without a trace. From then on, the river of blood seemed to have appeared under the sacred mountain. Therefore, I deduced that the changes in the river of blood and the Ma'in that Yun Yao heard might be related to the ancestor demon god." Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao immediately revealed a look of disbelief. They looked at each other in surprise. "Burial of heaven? Do you mean that the Ma'in in the river of blood was emitted by the ancestor demon god? The black shadow I saw in the river of blood, and the mysterious statue worshipped by the demon emperor, could it be the ancestor demon god?" Statue. Burial of heaven was startled for a moment. He asked in a solemn tone, "That statue, is it tall and majestic in appearance, with 3 heads and 9 arms, and a pair of black and white wings?" Yun Yao's eyes flashed with a bright light. She quickly nodded and said, "That's right. It's just as you said." Burial of heaven nodded and said in a solemn tone, "Then it's right. The legendary ancestor demon god looked exactly like that." The ancestor demon god was also called the death god by the experts of various clans in ancient times. It was an ominous sign, a synonym for death and slaughter. No matter where it appeared, it would bring a terrible disaster to all the living beings in the world. In ancient myths and legends, the death god was the most powerful existence among the gods. It controlled the power of the 3 calamities and 9 disasters. It had the power to destroy the heavens, the earth, and the stars. Its three heads represented the three major calamities: the apocalyptic calamity, the great solar fire, and the black solar storm. Its 9 arms represented the 9 major calamities: war, plague, famine, massacre, lightning, tribulation, inner demons, chaos, and so on. Its black and white wings represented death and reincarnation. Chapter 1140. Even the gods are afraid of it. The ancestor devil god is actually so powerful? Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were both shocked and in disbelief. Burial of Heaven nodded slightly and said in a solemn and low voice, "If not for this, the demon race of the ancient times would not have been able to dominate the world and enslave all the races." The war of the gods and the disappearance of the gods were all related to the ancestor devil god. Previously, when Tianqing sneaked into the demon race's sacred mountain, we did not see the changes in the blood river, nor did we hear the demonic sound. However, I secretly observed the sacred mountain and the blood river, and found that the blood river was very strange. It complemented the sacred mountain and formed a strange pattern. That pattern was very evil and powerful, and it gave me a sense of déjà vu. At this point, Burial of Heaven paused and said in a solemn voice, "At that time, I had not recovered much of my memory and only felt puzzled. I did not know what was going on. Now that I think about it, the strange pattern formed by the blood river around the ice mountain seems to be the 9 deaths blood river great array, created by the ancestor devil god. It has the heaven-defying effect of reincarnation and rebirth." Yun Yao showed a worried expression and asked doubtfully, "Burial of Heaven, do you mean the changes in the blood river, the demonic sound, and the mysterious shadow are all part of the demon emperor's scheme? Does the demon emperor want to revive the ancestor devil god?" Burial of Heaven nodded and said in a low voice, "That's right. That's the only possibility. Otherwise, the demon emperor would not hide in the sacred mountain and not show himself for an entire year." Ji Tianqing frowned and said worriedly, "If that's the case, then things are troublesome. The ancestor devil god is known as the death god and controls the power of the 3 calamities and 9 disasters. Once it is revived by the demon emperor, it will bring disaster to the entire continent. At that time, the entire Tianxian continent will be bathed in blood, and all the races will be enslaved by the demon race again. After all, the death god is so powerful that even the gods fear him. In today's world, who can resist the death god?" Burial of Heaven was silent for a while before shaking his head and said, "What I said just now was only my guess. There are still many doubtful points that require careful consideration. The ancestral demon god was a divine being and should not exist in this world, much less appear on this continent. After the war of the gods in ancient times, it disappeared along with the gods. No one knew if it had fallen or if it had left this continent. If the demon emperor wanted to revive it, it would mean that it had indeed died. But that's not right. After the death of a god, their body and soul would be destroyed, and they would disappear forever. Otherwise, it would have been sealed in the Shenwu continent. How could it appear on the profound sky continent?" Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were stunned when they heard that. They looked at the Burial of Heaven in confusion. "Shenwu continent? What is that place? Why have we never heard of the Shenwu continent? Could there be other continents in this world?" Burial of Heaven nodded slightly and explained in a serious tone, "The vastness of this world is far beyond your imagination. In this world, of course, there was more than one Tianxian land. There were a few other continents. The Shenwu continent was the vastest, most mysterious, and most ancient of the continents. It was only there that one could reach the legendary deity realm of the martial path, and one could even see a powerhouse in the martial god realm. It was a continent ruled by a martial god, and many of the fallen gods were buried in that continent. Some were buried in the long river of history, becoming legends for all eternity. Others lay dormant in the vast continent for a long time, searching for an opportunity in the world to be reborn." Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao widened their eyes in shock. Neither of them dared to believe that this was true. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. The profound sky continent is already vast and boundless enough. I never thought that there would be other continents in this world. Why have we never heard of this before? Even those primordial spirit supremes do not seem to know of the existence of other continents? Burial of Heaven spoke in a low and deep voice. Cultivating the martial path is actually a process for warriors to strengthen themselves and explore the mysteries of heaven, earth, and the starry sky. No matter what realm a warrior's strength reaches, they will find that their understanding of heaven, earth, and the starry sky is very shallow. With your current strength, it is impossible for you to leave this continent. Even those primordial spirit supremes are unable to do so, so of course you do not know of the existence of other continents. This is because the 5 continents in this world have been sealed by the gods, and they are isolated from each other, and are not connected to each other. When he heard this, Ji Tianqing suddenly thought of something, and many guesses appeared in his mind. He subconsciously asked, Burial of Heaven, 1,000 years ago, Kenshin reached the peak of the profound sky continent and created countless legends. However, in a few short decades, he disappeared without a trace. Legend has it that he left this continent. Could he have gone to the Shinwu continent? Burial of Heaven nodded and said in a low voice, Of course. The Shinwu continent is the most vast and prosperous continent in the world. The martial path has been multiplied to the extreme, and one can reach the deity realm. It is only on that continent that one has the possibility of becoming a god. It is not just Kenshin. Since ancient times, countless top powerhouses have tried to find ways to go to the Shinwu continent in order to reach the deity realm. When he heard this, Ji Tianqing subconsciously thought of the Eastern Mountain Sovereign. He finally understood that the Eastern Mountain Sovereign had definitely gone to the Shinwu continent. At this time, Yun Yao frowned and asked doubtfully, Burial of Heaven, didn't you just say that the 5 continents have been sealed by the gods and are not connected to each other? Then how did Kenshin go to the Shinwu continent? Also, since ancient times, how did the powerhouses of the martial path leave the profound sky continent? Burial of Heaven calmly explained, Even the gods are not omnipotent. Although the continents have been sealed by the gods, after a long period of time, the seals on each continent have loosened, and some cracks and loopholes have appeared. Martial artists who are unwilling to be mediocre want to leave their continents and explore the wider world. They want to discover the mysteries of the universe, and they will do so at all costs. Thus, countless powerhouses have paid the price of their lives to find some very hidden, but also very dangerous passages that can lead to the Shinwu continent. At this point, he looked deeply at Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao and warned them in a solemn tone. With your current strength, it is impossible for you two to find the passage. Even if you do find it, you two will not be able to pass through, and will only lose your lives. Yun Yao's eyes dimmed, and she fell silent and did not say anything else. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and smiled bitterly. What passage? What Shinwu continent? They are too far away for us. That is a completely foreign continent, and we will not even think of going there. Let's think about how we're going to deal with the Demon Emperor's scheme. Chapter 1141. Burial of Heaven could only confirm that the changes in the Blood River, the mysterious demonic sound, and the statue worshipped by the Demon Emperor were all related to the ancestor demon god. However, no one knew what the Demon Emperor was plotting. If the ancestor demon god had fallen in the ancient times, how could it appear in the Tianxian continent now? If the Demon Emperor wanted to revive the ancestor demon god, what methods would he use? Everything was a mystery and unfathomable. However, one thing was for sure. If the ancestor demon god was really revived, the end of the Tianxian continent would come. This was an outcome no one wanted to see, but no one could stop it. Burial of Heaven returned to the broken sword, and the study became quiet. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao looked at each other with a serious expression. After a while, Yun Yao said to him, Tianqing, we must take precautions and prepare for this as soon as possible. However, with our strength, we can't return to the demon race's sacred mountain to investigate the truth. Therefore, we should report this to the monarch residents and let them make the decision. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, Yes, not only the monarch residents, but also the human race, demon race, and water race imperial court should know about this and take precautions and prepare in advance. Leave this to me. I will tell them the news. Yin Yao nodded slightly and said, All right, then you must think of how to explain it to everyone, so that they will believe and take it seriously. I came here as soon as I returned to the monarch residence. I have to go back to the cave to check on the situation. After that, she bid farewell and left the Skyer Palace, heading towards the Cloud Jade Palace. Ji Tianqing sat alone in the study and thought for a long time before he came up with an excuse. Then, he took out 3 jade slips and entered information into the jade slips, recording that the demon emperor might revive the ancestor demon god. He sent the 3 encrypted jade slips to Long Yunxiao, Tai Yi and Ji Ke. Long Yunxiao and Tai Yi were both princes. After they received the news, they would definitely report it to the human race's monarch and the water race's golden dragon emperor. Ji Ke was the princess of the demon race. Once she received the news, she would definitely report it to the demon empress and demon emperor. After sending out the communication jade slip, Ji Tianqing was about to leave Tianqing Palace to find divine teacher Black Feather. However, just as he reached the main entrance of Tianqing Palace, he saw 2 guards from the imperial residence arriving at the main entrance at the speed of light. Shua, 2 guards landed outside the gate and walked towards him respectfully. Greetings, Prince Tianqing. Prince Tianhang, we're here on orders. Please come with us, said Yi Futian. The 2 guards looked solemn, and their tone was also very solemn. Ji Tianqing frowned slightly and asked, Whose orders are you serving? Where are you taking me? The 2 guards revealed a look of reverence and said in a low voice, We are under the orders of the Imperial Palace. Imperial Palace? Ji Tianqing's pupil shrank, and his face was filled with disbelief. The mansion master wants to see me? He was filled with doubts, but he did not ask any more questions. He followed the 2 guards into the sky and rushed towards the depths of the imperial residence at lightning speed. The imperial palace was located in the deepest part of the imperial residence. It was a sacred and forbidden area in the imperial residence. That ancient and sacred palace was where the mansion masters of the past lived. Even the god teachers of the imperial residence could not get close to the imperial palace without the mansion master's summons. Ji Tianqing had been to the imperial palace once, and it was there that he met the mansion master for the first time. Although he had only met the mansion master for a short time, but during that meeting, the mansion master told him about the sword god's followers. Thinking of this, he could not help but wonder if the mansion master had summoned him today to tell him another secret. An hour later, the 3 of them flew to the deepest part of the imperial residence and landed on a giant peak that was 10,000 meters tall. The ancient palace at the top of the giant peak was the imperial palace. 2 guards stood guard at the bottom of the steps outside the gate. Ji Tianqing walked up the steps alone and walked towards the gate of the palace. The 30-meter-tall bronze gate was left ajar. He reached out with both hands to hold the bronze door knocker and pushed the gate open. The hazy light outside the palace shone through the gate into the spacious palace. Ji Tianqing stepped through the gate with a serious expression and entered the palace. When he entered the main hall, the door behind him closed automatically with a bang. At the same time, hundreds of gemstone lamps lit up on the walls of the hall, emitting colorful brilliance. Ji Tianqing subconsciously raised his head and looked to the north. He saw the spacious, luxurious, and extremely honorable throne. To the left of the throne was a dark golden statue of a dragon man, and to the right of the throne was a statue of a harpy. On the spacious throne sat a burly middle-aged man in a purple robe. He was close to 2 meters tall, and his long snow-white hair was tied up with a dark golden dragon rope, revealing a carefree and unruly aura. He had a dark golden cloak draped over his shoulders, and his deep dark eyes shone with wisdom and vicissitudes of life. Ji Tianqing strode across the palace and came to the throne. He bowed to the white-haired man and said respectfully, "Greetings, mansion master." The white-haired man was the mansion master. He nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, "You may rise." "Thank you, mansion master," Ji Tianqing replied. He straightened his body and looked at the mansion master calmly. "May I know why you summoned me here, mansion master?" The mansion master looked at him deeply and sized him up before saying in a deep voice, I haven't seen you for a year, and you've already broken through to the soul refinement realm. Moreover, your strength has increased tenfold. I'm very pleased. Ji Tianxing nodded and explained. In the past year, in order to rescue Yin Yao, the emperor's son has been running around the mainland. During this period, he has experienced many dangers and hardships. Difficulties make people work hard. The emperor's son also had some opportunities and adventures, which allowed him to break through smoothly and increase his strength rapidly. The mansion master nodded slightly and said in a gratified tone, Very good. You're indeed the successor of Kenshin. You didn't disappoint me. Since you've already entered the demon emperor's lair and rescued Yun Yao, what did you find and gain from your trip to the northern desert? Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and answered truthfully, Mansion master, the emperor's son did find something. Today, I have two things to report to you. First, the emperor's son found Ren Huangyi in the Manga mountain range on his way back from the northern desert. According to the instructions you gave me, Ren Huangyi is one of the followers of Kenshin. Unfortunately, when I invited Ren Huangyi to come out and help me, he politely refused. He said that he was still waiting for someone. The mansion master's expression did not change. He said calmly, It's normal for Ren Huangyi to refuse. You don't have to take it to heart. When the time is right, he will naturally come out and help you. Ji Tianxing nodded and continued. Second, when the emperor's son and Yun Yao were in the demon emperor's lair, they found some clues. After repeated consideration and speculation, we can confirm that the demon emperor is carrying out an earth-shattering conspiracy. Chapter 1142. The ancient demon emperor wants to revive the ancestor demon god. The palace master frowned, and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. What exactly happened? Tell me. Ji Tianxing cupped his hands and bowed. Then, he told the mansion master everything that had happened. Yin Yao was transformed into the blood god by the demon emperor, and imprisoned in the demon race's sacred mountain for 10 months. During that time, Yin Yao would find the blood river at the foot of the sacred mountain churning on every full moon night. Mysterious demonic sounds could be heard from it, and mysterious black shadows flashed by. Not only that, but the demon emperor also brought Yin Yao to visit a mysterious statue. The statue had 3 heads, 9 arms, and a pair of black and white wings. It was the image of the legendary ancestor demon god. Therefore, we dare to conclude that the demon emperor is most likely carrying out a plan to revive the ancestor demon god. After hearing his story, the palace master frowned and pondered for a while before nodding. I see. It is indeed the same as my speculation. The sacred mountain and the blood river, the demon emperor's lair, hide too many secrets. Ji Tianxing stood quietly, waiting for the palace master's decision. He thought that the palace master would take this matter seriously and make a corresponding decision. However, he did not expect the palace master to say calmly, You don't have to worry about this for now. I summoned you here today to tell you something very important. Soon, I will leave the middle state, and will only be back in a year at the earliest. During this time, I have a task for you. Hearing his words, Ji Tianxing immediately frowned and asked with a face full of doubt and worry. Master, the demon emperor is carrying out an earth-shattering scheme. Once his scheme succeeds, and the ancestor demon god is awakened, it will bring an earth-shattering disaster to the Tianxian continent. At this critical juncture, shouldn't the imperial residents unite the powerhouses of the 3 races to stop the demon emperor's scheme? Don't tell me. You want to watch the demon race take over the world and enslave all the races? Although his tone was agitated, the palace master was not angry. He listened to him expressionlessly and said in a serious tone, Tianxing, you don't have to worry about this. The primogenita devil god was an ancient god spirit. He had disappeared during the Great War of the Gods, and his whereabouts were unknown. No one knows if the ancestor demon god left this continent, or has completely fallen. It is only an illusory legend. Even if it is a god, it can preserve a remnant soul after its fall. But thousands of years has passed, how much power does it have left? The demon emperor wants to revive the ancestor demon god? The ancestor demon god's soul is demon god's true body will take thousands of years. The potentate paused at this point. He stared at Ji Tianqing solemnly and asked, 1,000 years isn't enough time for all the races to work together and destroy the demon race? Furthermore, what this sovereign is about to do is related to the fate of the entire continent. It is of utmost importance. Ji Tianqing was immediately speechless. He was unable to persuade the palace master any further. He knew very well that the palace master was the greatest expert on the continent. His status and level were just too high, so he viewed things from a different perspective. Since the palace master told him not to worry, and that he had something to do that would affect the fate of the continent, what reason did he have to stop him? After a moment of silence, he could only clasp his hands and bow. He said, "May I ask what mission the palace master has? Please tell me." The palace master stared at him with shining eyes and said gruffly, "You are the emperor that I value the most, as well as the successor of Kenshin. You have already reached the soul refinement realm, surpassing the limits of mortals. As a result, it's time for me to tell you some things and secrets. After Yun Yao was saved by you, her body was still possessed by a demonic soul, and she was constantly demonized. It was Yun Yao who begged me to save her, which was why Yun Yao was freed. Yun Yao has a Neptunian god pearl within her. That is the legendary goddess Yaoguang's remnant soul. It is a god artifact. The origin of this Neptunian god pearl is closely related to Kenshin. I unsealed the Neptunian god pearl and used its power to purify Yun Yao's demonic soul, which allowed her soul to awaken. It was a blessing in disguise, and her strength increased tenfold." Ji Tianqing's body shuddered when he heard that. A look of as expected flashed through his eyes. He thought to himself, "As I expected, the person who saved Yao Yao really was the palace master. The Neptunian god pearl within Yao Yao really is related to goddess Yaoguang." He had guessed these 2 points a very long time ago, but he had never been able to verify them. However, he had never thought that the palace master would tell him the truth personally today. He immediately realized that it was very likely for the mission the palace master had given him to be related to Yun Yao. As expected, the palace master continued sternly, "It's just a pity that when I used the Neptunian god pearl to save Yun Yao, I discovered that the power within the Neptunian god pearl was not goddess Yaoguang's remnant soul. Instead, it was one of her 7 fragments. Due to some unspeakable reason, I needed to gather all of goddess Yaoguang's 7 fragments and awaken her." When he reached there, Ji Tianqing interrupted him in a hurry. He asked, "Palace master, is Yun Yao really the reincarnation of goddess Yaoguang? I've had this question in my mind for a very long time. Please answer me." The palace master stared at him deeply. After a moment of silence, he nodded, Sort of. Sort of? Ji Tianqing frowned. He was rather doubtful. "Palace master, may I ask why you gathered all of goddess Yaoguang's 7 fragments and revived her?" The palace master glanced at him and said with an indifferent expression, "I naturally have my reasons for doing this. Right now you don't have the right to know this." Although he did not say it, Ji Tianqing could vaguely guess. He asked probingly, "Could it be related to the fate of the profound sky continent?" The palace master only stared at him emotionlessly. He did not admit or deny it. A while later he said sternly, "The Neptunian god pearl in Yun Yao's body is only goddess Yaoguang's 7th fragment. There should be 6 other Neptunian god pearls in this world. They should be formed from the other 6 fragments. Ji Tianqing, the mission I'm giving you is to find the other 6 Neptunian god pearls. Only you and I know this secret. Even Yun Yao doesn't know. You're Yun Yao's husband. You're the person she trusts the most. Moreover, when you approach the Neptunian god pearl, your soul will sense it. As a result, you're the most suitable person for this mission." Ji Tianqing nodded. He said sternly, "Palace master, I understand what you're saying. I'm willing to accept this mission." Chapter 1143. Ji Tianqing knew very well that the patriarch had high hopes for him by telling him the secret of the Yaoguang goddess and the Neptunian divine pearl. However, searching for the Neptunian divine pearl aimlessly was just too difficult. It was an impossible mission. The patriarch said sternly, Ji Tianxing, no matter how difficult this mission is, you must complete it. Yun Yao has only fused with the seventh fragment of the goddess. Although her cultivation has skyrocketed, she only has 5 years left to live. After 5 years, if she can't find another fragment to continue her life, the power of the fragment will be unbalanced, resulting in the destruction of her body and soul. Ji Tianxing felt like he had been struck by lightning when he heard this. He asked in disbelief, how can this be? Isn't Yao Yao already fine? Why did this happen? Why is she always plagued by misfortune and misfortune? The patriarch looked at him coldly and said in a deep voice, if she was just an ordinary person, she would naturally be able to die of old age and live a peaceful life. But she isn't. Her fate is destined to be extraordinary. How can it be so easy for her to become a martial arts expert and awaken as an ancient goddess? Ji Tianxing had nothing to say in response. He could only remain silent. He could not deny that the truth was as the patriarch had said. How could it be so easy to inherit the legacy of an ancient goddess? Just like himself, he had to go through countless dangers and tribulations in order to inherit Qinshin's legacy. At this moment the patriarch continued, Ji Tianxing, only you and I know about the Neptunian divine pearl. I will search for the Neptunian divine pearl with you. As for why I want to revive the Yaoguang goddess, you will understand in the future. Ji Tianxing felt much more at ease when he heard that. He nodded, Patriarch, I understand. Please give me your orders. The patriarch said seriously, the Neptunian divine pearl is a divine item, so it obviously won't appear in ordinary places. I've already searched the profound sky continent many times, but I've found nothing. There are only 2 forbidden grounds that I haven't had the time to investigate. I'm about to leave the profound sky continent, so I need you to complete this matter. The 2 forbidden areas were the God-falling cliff and the sun and moon furnace. They were both extremely dangerous places in the world. I have information about the 2 forbidden areas here. You have to look through it carefully and figure it out. When you have the corresponding confidence, you can go and investigate. Then a golden light lit up in his palm, and a jade slip appeared. He waved his hand and sent the jade slip to Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing took the jade slip and frowned slightly as he thought to himself, Sun-Moon Furnace? Could it be the Sun-Moon Furnace that I used to forge my broken sword in the Eastern Sea's sinkhole? Just as he was deep in thought, the palace master said in a low voice, after I leave, you must cultivate diligently and quickly improve your strength, so that you can complete the mission as soon as possible. With your current strength, it's not enough for you to enter those 2 forbidden areas. Come with me, I'll take you to a place. With that said, the manor lord stood up and left the main hall, entering the depths of the imperial palace through a secret door in the corner of the hall. Ji Tianxing followed closely behind him. After walking along the dark passage for a quarter of an hour, they finally entered a dimly lit secret room. When he stepped through the door of the secret room, he only felt that he had passed through a layer of invisible bubbles, and his entire body was slightly distorted. The secret room was filled with an invisible mysterious power that made him feel strange and awkward. The palace master stopped and waved his hand to shoot out a golden dazzling light. Instantly, a dozen gemstone lamps lit up on the walls of the secret room. The colorful light illuminated the entire secret room. Ji Tianxing finally saw the appearance of the secret room clearly. It was only 100 feet in radius, and the furnishings were very simple. The surrounding walls and the floor beneath his feet were paved with unknown black stone slabs. Ancient and mysterious patterns were engraved on them, emitting invisible energy waves. In the entire secret room, there was only a futon made of dark gold spiritual jade in the middle. Other than that, there was nothing else. The palace master turned to look at him and said solemnly, I'll be leaving in a few days. You can rest assured and cultivate in seclusion here. This secret room is the core of the imperial palace. It has been left behind since ancient times, and it's also a treasured place for the past palace masters to cultivate in seclusion. The time here is different from the outside world. The flow of time here is 10 times faster than the outside world. If you cultivate here for 10 days, only 1 day will pass in the outside world. However, this secret room can only allow you to cultivate in seclusion for 100 days. The power will be exhausted after that, and it will take several years for it to recover. Ji Tianqing suddenly revealed a look of surprise and said in disbelief, "Then if I cultivate in seclusion here for 100 days, only 10 days will pass in the outside world? This secret room actually has such a magical effect? It can actually change the flow of time." The palace master nodded and gave him a few more instructions before he turned and left the secret room. Following a muffled bang, the secret room's stone door closed. The secret room quieted down, leaving only Ji Tianqing alone. He stood in the secret room in a daze and looked around in disbelief, looking at the array patterns on the walls and floor. Without a doubt, it was these ancient array patterns that were suffused with a grayish-white color that caused the flow of time in the secret room to be different from the outside world. He stared at the crisscrossing and twisting array patterns and carefully observed them for a while. Suddenly his body shook, and his eyes shone with a bright light. These strange array patterns, where have I seen them before? He was a little confused and frowned in confusion, racking his brain to recall. He was very sure that this was his first time in the Imperial Palace's secret room, and also his first time seeing the array in the secret room. But for some reason, these array patterns gave him a sense of déjà vu, and even a little familiar. He pondered for a while before he suddenly remembered. I remember now. It's Kenshin's tomb. Thinking of this, he quickly sat cross-legged on the futon made of spiritual jade, and his spirit entered Kenshin's tomb. Swoosh! The golden spirit sword turned into a translucent little golden person that looked exactly like him. His spirit flew across the cold and gloomy wasteland and quickly reached the edge, entering the empty area in the gray fog. In the empty area of more than 10 miles, the grayish-white ground was engraved with mysterious array patterns. Ji Tianqing carefully observed and compared them before he confirmed his guess. That's right. The mysterious array pattern in Kenshin's tomb is very similar to the mysterious array in the palace master's secret room. This discovery made him excited, and he immediately fell into deep thought. The mysterious array in the palace master's secret room can change the flow of time. The array pattern in Kenshin's tomb is very similar to that array. Could it also have the effect of changing time? After careful comparison, the array pattern in Kenshin's tomb seemed to be of a higher level and countless times more profound than the array in the palace master's secret room. Chapter 1144. Ji Tianqing spent half a day carefully studying the array in the mansion master's secret chamber and the mysterious array diagram in Kenshin's tomb. After comparison, he came to a conclusion. Although the two were very similar, the difference in grade was countless times. If the array in the mansion master's secret chamber was at the primordial spirit realm, the mysterious array diagram in Kenshin's tomb was at least at the martial god realm, or even a true god realm array diagram. Of course, this was just an example. He believed that the actual grade of the two arrays was several levels higher than this. At least, with his current strength and attainments in array formations, he could not understand these two arrays at all. After half a day, he could only helplessly give up on his research. He had already made up his mind that if he had the chance in the future, he would definitely ask the mansion master about the secrets of the secret chamber's array formations. After collecting his thoughts, his soul left Kenshin's tomb and returned to the mind of his main body. He began to focus on cultivating in seclusion, consuming large amounts of spirit stones, pills, and cultivation resources to improve his strength. He cultivated the first level of the Sword Soul Path over and over again, accumulating a vast amount of magic power to condense the Sword Soul and Soul Magic Sword. Unknowingly, more than 2 months had passed. He cultivated in seclusion in the secret chamber for 80 days. His magic power had finally accumulated to the maximum, and his soul power had also reached the peak of the second level of the Soul Refinement Realm. He finally condensed the third Soul Magic Sword, and his strength naturally broke through to the third level of the Soul Refinement Realm. Swoosh! When he successfully reached the third level of the soul refinement realm, his body lit up with a dazzling white light. 3 half-meter-long white soul magic swords floated behind his back. They glowed with a hazy light and released a powerful soul magic power. Every soul magic sword was imbued with an unstoppable power that could destroy anything in its path. When the 3 soul magic swords were released together, they had the power to summon the wind and rain and destroy mountains and rivers. It was absolutely terrifying. Ji Tianxing could also clearly feel that his combat strength had more than doubled. The current him was not the best in terms of strength, but his combat strength was outstanding, enough to do whatever he wanted on the continent. This is great. The manor head's secret chamber looked simple, but it had such an incredible effect. I can't waste the remaining 20 days. I'll take the opportunity to practice the 9 swords of the burial of heaven and increase the power of my swordsmanship. Thinking of this, he manipulated the divine soul golden sword and entered Kenshin's tomb to cultivate. Shua. The golden sword of divine soul took on his appearance, turning into a small, transparent golden figure that appeared in the tomb of the sword god. He was standing in the middle of the grayish-white wasteland, and in front of him were the 18 cold, pitch-black tombstones. The 9 tombstones on the left were still empty. There was nothing there. There were 9 tombstones on the right, and 8 of them were empty. Only the first tombstone was engraved with the first level of the sword soul path. Ji Tianxing subconsciously glanced at the tombstone and saw the ancient seal script on the tombstone light up with a dark golden light. Originally, the 10-meter-tall tombstone was pitch black and emitted a cold aura of death. But at this moment, the tombstone was wrapped in a layer of hazy golden light, and it was emitting a mysterious power. What's going on? This tombstone seems a little strange. Ji Tianxing frowned and walked in front of the tombstone, full of doubts, and carefully observed it. He looked at it for a while and couldn't find any clues, so he reached out to touch the tombstone to see what was going on. However, as soon as his hands touched the tombstone flashed with a dark golden light. Shua! In just an instant, the mysterious dark golden light enveloped his divine soul. A terrifying devouring power erupted from the tombstone and swallowed him instantly, making him unable to resist. Shua! With a flash of light, Ji Tianxing's divine soul disappeared. The golden light on the tombstone also quickly faded, and it became normal, pitch black and cold as usual. Ji Tianxing thought that after the tombstone changed and swallowed him, there would be some danger. But when he saw the scene in front of him clearly, he was stunned on the spot. He was swallowed by the tombstone and entered a strange space. All around him, above his head, and below his feet were endless white clouds and thick fog. In the sea of clouds in front of him, there was a white jade stone bridge that was more than 10 feet wide and 100 meters long, connecting to the depths of the sea of clouds. On the other end of the white jade stone bridge, there was a mysterious pagoda that was more than 1,000 feet tall and had a total of 5 floors, standing quietly in the sea of clouds. The gently rolling white clouds and thick fog covered more than half of the pagoda, making it difficult for him to see clearly. The pagoda's design was extremely dignified and luxurious, like the palace of the gods in heaven. The pagoda had 8 corners, and on the cornice of each corner, there was a statue of a mythical beast. There was a golden dragon, a fire dragon, a black dragon, a silver dragon, a phoenix, a vermilion bird, a white tiger, and so on. The entire pagoda was dark golden and shone with a faint golden light in the sea of clouds, looking incomparably sacred. Ji Tianxing looked up at the sacred and majestic pagoda, his face full of shock and disbelief. It's just an ordinary tombstone in a Kenshin tomb. But there's actually another world inside, and such a mysterious space is hidden? It seems that my understanding of the Kenshin tomb is too little. There are still many secrets hidden in the Kenshin tomb that I can't even imagine. He sighed emotionally and let out a sigh. After calming down, he stepped onto the white jade stone bridge and passed through the hazy sea of clouds, walking toward the golden pagoda on the other end of the stone bridge. When he crossed the white jade stone bridge and arrived at the door of the pagoda, he saw that there were 99 steps of white jade stairs in front of him, connecting to the door of the pagoda. On both sides of the door, there were 9 tall and majestic statues. Each statue was wearing silver armor and a golden cape, with a divine weapon at their waist and an ancient halberd in their hands. Without a doubt, these 18 statues were all guards, all of them majestic and domineering. Right above the gate, there was a broad and magnificent plaque with 3 dark golden ancient seal characters engraved on it. Ji Tianqing looked for a while before he recognized the 3 ancient characters. It was the Heavenly Sutra Pavilion. Heavenly Sutra Pavilion? Where is this place? From the name, could it be a place to store books? He raised his eyebrows and muttered silently in his heart. He looked at the door of the Heavenly Sutra Pavilion and found that the 30-meter-tall door was tightly shut. There were vivid carvings of a golden dragon and a fire phoenix on the door. However, there was no door knocker on the door, nor was there any array to open the door. Ji Tianqing muttered for a while, but he didn't know how to open the door, so he stretched out his hands and pushed. When his hands touched the door immediately lit up with a dazzling golden light, and the carvings of the golden dragon and fire phoenix seemed to come to life. Swoosh, swoosh. The golden dragon and the fire phoenix both turned their heads to look at him. Then, they wriggled their bodies into the door and disappeared. Ji Tianqing was dumbfounded as he watched. He exclaimed in his heart. Chapter 1145. When the door of the Heavenly Book Pavilion opened, a ray of bright golden light shone out from the main hall. Ji Tianqing was startled. He turned to look at the sky above his head and the sea of clouds around him. The surroundings were shrouded in clouds and mist. Although it was not too dark, it was not too bright either. On the contrary, the main hall of the Heavenly Book Pavilion was surrounded by bright golden light, making it look resplendent. Ji Tianqing was a little puzzled. He stepped into the main hall and sized up the situation inside. The main hall was very spacious and bright. It had a radius of 100 meters. The surrounding walls were inlaid with gemstones and bright lights, shining with a dark golden light. The floor was paved with dark white jade and was engraved with exquisite and beautiful patterns. It was a magnificent star map. In the middle of the main hall was a wide passage, with dozens of bookshelves arranged neatly on both sides. Those bookshelves were like magic treasures. They were made of special materials and were engraved with formations, emitting an invisible and powerful force. Each bookshelf was 30 meters long, with dozens to hundreds of books placed on it. The situation was just as Ji Tianqing had guessed. This Heavenly Book Pavilion was a treasure. He strolled among the many bookshelves and carefully observed for a moment. Then he found a clue. The floor of the main hall and the dozens of bookshelves were spotless and clean, as if they were new. This made him frown and he muttered to himself, "Strange, there is a space hidden in the tombstone, and there is a mysterious Heavenly Book Pavilion. This place has been through at least 1,000 years, so why is it still brand new and clean? There is not even a trace of the passage of time?" He vaguely felt that this Heavenly Book Pavilion was a little strange. However, since he had entered the Heavenly Book Pavilion, he could not just leave. Of course, he had to find out what was going on. He wandered among the many bookshelves, his gaze searching the bookshelves, sweeping through row after row of books. After a quarter of an hour, he had checked more than 20 bookshelves and swept through tens of thousands of books. Without exception, these books were all history books and biographies, recording all kinds of secret stories and biographies of famous people. Most of the books were similar to the biography of the Supreme Sword Great Emperor, records of Dark Parasol, travels on Kunyue Mountain, and records of 10,000 years. However, the legendary people and places described in these history books and biographies, as well as the various cultural styles, were all things that Ji Tianqing had never heard of. He even suspected that the powerhouses and places recorded in these biographies were not in the Tianxian continent. Moreover, each bookshelf was sealed and protected by a mysterious formation. The power of the formation could protect the books from the passage of time. Of the books. Of the Heavenly Book Pavilion. It was probably because the books stored on this bookshelf were not particularly important or precious that the level of the sealing formation was relatively low. Ji Tianqing spent a day to break the seal on the bookshelf. Of heavenly book. Of heavenly book. Of heavenly book. Of heavenly book. Of. This was exactly what he wanted to see. He flipped through the heavenly book pavilion carefully, checking the contents page by page. About 2 hours later, he finally finished reading the heavenly book pavilion. He had a corresponding understanding of the Tianxian continent in the ancient era. He understood many myths, legends, and ancient secrets. According to the book, at the beginning of the ancient era, the Tianxian continent was still in an uncivilized era. At that time, the 5 continents coexisted. They were very far away from each other, but they had not been sealed by the gods. At that time, there were thousands of races living together in the Tianxian continent. Humans were not the masters of the continent. They were still building kingdoms without restraint. Wars broke out frequently over food, minerals, and territory. Martial arts cultivation was still in its infancy. Mortals could only cultivate to the heavenly origin realm at most, which was the limit. A heavenly origin realm powerhouse could lead many kingdoms and form a super empire. They occupied 20 to 30% of the human territory. Later on, many gods descended from the sky and came to the continent. Many deities protected the various races and taught them martial arts and cultivation methods. From then on, the various races gradually grasped the cultivation methods. They learned how to communicate with the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and use various training resources to increase their strength. Martial arts entered a stage of rapid development. Martial arts geniuses emerged one after another. Elite martial artists also emerged like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. The human race also gradually broke away from the stage where the kingdoms ruled the world. Powerful sects and families kept appearing to rule over the kingdoms, although there would be some conflicts and friction between the various races. However, under the leadership of the gods, the people of the various races always found a way to live in peace and live together. Although the human race was innately weak and was one of the weaker races in the world. However, the human race had superior wisdom and powerful learning and comprehension ability. After thousands of years of reproduction, the human race gradually became one of the major races on the continent. After many more years, the human race, the demon race, and the water clan became the 3 most powerful races on the continent. They established the tripartite balance of power. The Tianxian continent, at that time, was the most glorious and the most magnificent era of martial arts. There were billions of living beings cultivating the martial Tao, and there were also gods controlling the continent, protecting the various races and recuperating. However, the good times did not last long. Not long after, a small-scale battle between the gods broke out. The power of the battle between the gods shattered the world barrier and created a hole in the sky. On the other side of the hole, it was connected to another world. In that world, there lived a very powerful and strange race. The people of that race were born with endless strength. Their power, defense, and speed far surpassed any other race on the Tianxian continent. Additionally, they were proficient in killing and fighting techniques. They could also swallow the gloomy and evil chi between the heaven and earth. They could suck the flesh and soul of living creatures to increase their own power quickly. Without a doubt, this powerful and evil race was the Devil Clan. That strange world was extremely lacking in resources, and it was also broken and incomplete. Clearly, the Devil Clan was unwilling to stay in that broken world. Under the lead of the ancestor Devil God, they all passed through the hole in the sky and poured into the Tianxian land that was even more vast and rich in resources. Thus, a disaster befell the Tianxian land. After countless devil clans poured into the Tianxian land, they invaded the territories of the various races and plundered their products and resources. They slaughtered the living creatures of various races wantonly, swallowed the flesh and soul of living creatures, and practiced evil secret techniques to increase their power quickly. Billions of devil clans covered the Tianxian land like a black tide. The living creatures of various races were brutally slaughtered and enslaved as they fell into an abyss of suffering. Chapter 1146. Those few hundred years were the darkest and cruelest era of the Tianxian land. All clans were slaughtered and enslaved by the Devil Clan. They became the lowest slaves and lived a life worse than pigs and dogs. The divine beings that protected all clans kept attacking the Devil Clan. They swore to drive the Devil Clan out of the Tianxian land, or annihilate them completely. However, the power of the ancestor Devil God surpassed all the divine beings' expectations. Wherever he went, he set off a reign of terror and brought all kinds of calamities to the Tianxian land. Many divine beings called him the Death God. The Death God did not fight alone. He had many powerful devil gods under his command. Even when the divine beings of all clans joined hands, they were not a match for the Death God and many devil gods. In the end, many divine beings discussed and made a decision. They asked the divine beings above the 9 heavens for help. They borrowed a divine pearl from one of the supreme divine beings. The divine beings joined hands and used the divine pearl to fill the hole in the sky. They blocked the passage to the strange world to prevent more Devil Clan from pouring into the Tianxian land. Additionally, the Yaoguang goddess above the 9 heavens also descended to the Tianxian land with the divine light of the 7 glorious stars. When she saw the suffering of all living things, the Yaoguang goddess was also moved. She was incomparably furious and hated the Devil Clan to the extreme. Under her leadership, the divine beings joined hands and engaged in a life and death battle with the Death God and many devil gods. Thus the battle of the divine beings broke out. No one knew where the battlefield of the divine beings was, or how many years it lasted. The people of the land only knew that the Yaoguang goddess chose to sacrifice herself to save all living things in the Tianxian land. She burned her godhead and soul to perish together with the ancestor devil god. After the battle of the divine beings, the heavens and earth shook for a few dozen years before calming down. In those few dozen years, the sky was dim and the earth was dark. The entire land was filled with 5-colored spiritual qi. When the heavens and earth returned to the light, all the divine beings disappeared without a trace and never appeared again. The Devil Clan lost the protection of the Death God and many devil gods. They were defeated by all clans in the world. In the end, they retreated to the northern desert. Legend had it that the divine beings above the 9 heavens were furious and sent down divine punishment. They turned the northern desert into an extremely poor and cold land of death. Before goddess Yaoguang died, she planted an eternal bloodline curse on the demons. Every time there was a full moon, the demons would reveal their true forms. They would become incomparably ugly and suffer great pain and torture. The profound sky continent was also sealed by the gods and isolated from the other continents to prevent the demons from escaping to the other continents and harming more living beings. And the deeds of goddess Yaoguang became an eternal legend, passed down through the long river of history. Although goddess Yaoguang had fallen, there were 2 lines in the book that were thought-provoking. As long as the 7 stars of the Northern Division were not destroyed, goddess Yaoguang would not fall. One day, the 7 planets' divine radiance would illuminate the world once more. After Ji Tianqing finished reading the ancient book, he had a deep impression of the contents and information. He would never forget it. Facts also proved that the records in the ancient book were correct. The Big Dipper was eternal and indestructible, and goddess Yaoguang did not truly fall. After millions of years, she was reborn in Yin Yao's body. After closing the ancient book, he placed it back on the bookshelf. His heart was filled with emotions. The ancient legends and deeds described in the book are very similar to the door of heavenly awakening and that dilapidated world. Looks like the divine bead that was borrowed from a certain god above the 9 heavens mentioned in the book is the heaven-mending pearl in my mind. In this case, the heaven-mending pearl is a true divine object. Turns out that the demons were not originally a race of the profound sky continent. They invaded the profound sky continent from that dilapidated world. He thought about it slightly and understood many things and mysteries. Those illusory myths and legends were also verified one by one. They were all real. After Ji Tianqing put down the ancient book, he pondered for a long time before leaving the first level of the Heavenly Sutra Pavilion and walking towards the second level. Between the first level of the hall and the second level, There was a layer of invisible sealing array. What was gratifying was that Ji Tianqing stepped over the seal effortlessly and entered the second level of the Heavenly Sutra Pavilion. In the second level of the hall, it was similarly spacious and bright. Many bookshelves were placed. Many books were placed on each bookshelf. They were all imprisoned by a sealing array. The difference was that the many books displayed on those antique bookshelves were all cultivation method manuals. Ji Tianqing looked through countless bookshelves and discovered that the cultivation methods displayed on those bookshelves were at least cultivation methods of the primordial soul realm and above. Even the lowest level cultivation method was a secret art that could only be cultivated by primordial soul realm experts. The vast majority of cultivation method manuals could only be cultivated by primordial soul realm experts and above. Ji Tianqing passed through each bookshelf and searched for a long time before he found the lowest level cultivation method, which was a relatively simple primordial soul realm cultivation method. This cultivation method manual was called the Primordial Soul Leaving Body Mystic Technique. Ji Tianqing had long understood that only primordial soul realm experts could condense primordial soul dharma idol and release the primordial soul from the body to kill enemies thousands of miles away. Although the physical body of a soul refinement realm expert was destroyed, the remaining divine soul could also be restored. However, the divine soul of a soul refinement realm expert could not leave the body for too long. There was also a certain limit to the distance, and the divine soul would lose its dharmic powers and power. However, primordial soul realm experts were not restricted by this. Their primordial soul could leave the body. No matter how far away it was from the body, it could still exert great power. Ji Tianqing broke the seal on the bookshelf. After taking out the ancient book, he carefully flipped through it for a long time. He compared the cultivation method in the ancient book, and according to the primordial soul leaving body mystic technique, he began to analyze and try to cultivate it repeatedly. This ancient book was a cultivation method for primordial soul realm experts. However, he had already broken the seal and obtained this manual. Moreover, he could understand the contents of the manual and cultivate according to the incantation. This made him realize that he could also cultivate this cultivation method manual, and that it might have special effects. Unknowingly, half a month passed. After half a month of tough cultivation, Ji Tianqing finally understood the essence of the primordial soul leaving body mystic technique, and successfully cultivated this cultivation method. Although he had not cultivated the primordial soul, after cultivating this cultivation method, his divine soul could also have the effect of leaving the body. From now on, his divine soul could also fly out of his body and maintain it for a long time. Even his divine soul golden sword could fly thousands of miles and kill enemies from a distance. The magical effect of this cultivation method allowed him to feel the wonders of the primordial soul realm in advance. Although this was only an invisible improvement, it also increased his combat strength by several times and had great convenience. After ending his seclusion, he left the Heavenly Book Pavilion. The 100-day deadline was about to be up. He could only leave temporarily. Otherwise, the power of the Mansion Master's secret chamber would be exhausted. Anyway, the Heavenly Book Pavilion was in the space inside the tombstone. If he wanted to read any information in the future, he could come back again. After leaving the Heavenly Book Pavilion, his divine soul returned to the Mansion Master's secret chamber. Chapter 1147. Although Ji Tianqing had been in seclusion in the Palace Master's secret room for 100 days, but after he walked out of the Palace Master's secret room, only 10 days had passed in the outside world. Inside the palace, the light was dim and quiet. The Palace Master had already left. Ji Tianqing walked out of the palace and flew to the Tianqing Palace as fast as lightning. After half an hour, he had just returned to the entrance of the Tianqing Palace when a guard commander came to greet him. Reporting to the domain master, His Majesty the Son of Heaven came to look for you in the evening the day before yesterday. You were not in the palace, so he left. This subordinate saw his expression and reaction. It seems that he has something very important to look for you. Hearing this news, Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, something very important? Could it be about Long Zitian? So, he ordered the guard commander, quickly go to the Cloud Palace and invite His Majesty the Son of Heaven to come over for a discussion. The guard commander acknowledged the order and hurried to Cloudy Palace. Ji Tianxing returned to his residence and sat in the study room, patiently waiting. After half an hour, Long Yunxiao rushed over with an anxious expression. He strode into the study room and nodded to Ji Tianxing as a greeting. Ji Tianxing saw his dignified expression and a hint of worry between his brows. He realized that things were not good and quickly asked, Son of Heaven, why are you looking for me? Is there a result of that matter? Long Yunxiao nodded slightly and said in a gloomy tone, This monarch knows that Long Zitian's strength has reached the soul-refining realm and is very difficult to deal with. So this monarch specially arranged 2 soul-refining realm powerhouses to handle this matter, to ensure that nothing goes wrong. The original plan was very smooth, and they took action the day before arriving at the border. Long Zitian was seriously injured by them and was about to lose his life. But suddenly, a mysterious powerhouse came out and rescued Long Zitian. Suddenly hearing this news, Ji Tianxing frowned, his pupils constricted, and his eyes flashed with a cold light. Long Zitian was rescued? Then did your people investigate who rescued Long Zitian? Where did Long Zitian go? Long Yunxiao nodded and said in a low voice, Of course they did. It's a pity that the mysterious expert was too strong and didn't reveal his identity. They had also been severely injured by the mysterious expert and were on the verge of death. Luckily, they had managed to escape. As for where Long Zitian was rescued, no one knows. This monarch's people are still investigating. Damn it, Ji Tianxing angrily said. It wasn't easy for us to bring down Long Zitian. And now we're about to cut the weeds and pull out the roots, eliminating all future troubles. Unexpectedly, he was rescued by someone, and his whereabouts were unknown. If we allow him to recover and build a powerful force, he will definitely come back and take revenge on us. Although I'm not afraid of his revenge, this is still a troublesome matter. Long Yunxiao nodded slightly and said with a heart full of resentment, That's right. This sovereign has been unable to sleep for the past few days. As long as Long Zitian doesn't die, this sovereign will feel like a thorn in his back. Ji Tianxing was silent for a moment, then said with a serious face, Since it has already happened, this is the only way. Long Zitian is a scheming person. When I took away the myriad Gu altar, he had already predicted the result, and must have made arrangements in advance. That mysterious expert who rescued him is very likely a backup plan arranged by him in advance. But I really can't think of anything, besides Yu Tianhong and Morong Zheng. Who else has a soul refinement realm expert under him? Long Yunxiao frowned and looked at him with shining eyes. He transmitted his voice. After the plan failed, the 2 experts arranged by this monarch reported the situation to this monarch in detail. That mysterious expert's physique didn't look like a human, and the cultivation methods and secret skills he used were also not human martial arts. According to their speculations, that mysterious expert was most likely a demon. What? Ji Tianxing was stunned and showed a startled expression. The mysterious expert who rescued Long Zitian was actually a demon? Could it be that Long Zitian had long been secretly colluding with the demon? Long Yunxiao shook his head and said with a puzzled face, This monarch also doesn't understand and feels that this matter is fishy. No matter how sinister and despicable Long Zitian is, he would never dare to collude with the demon. That is a taboo of the human race. If he really colluded with the demon, the emperor would have already dealt with him. Hearing his analysis, Ji Tianxing became more and more puzzled. If Long Zitian didn't collude with the demon, why did the demon expert rescue him? This monarch also doesn't know. I can only send people to continue the investigation. Long Yunxiao showed a helpless expression. Ji Tianxing nodded and said in a deep voice, Son of Heaven, this matter can only be done by you. You must investigate it thoroughly. It's best if you can find Long Zitian's whereabouts. If you can't completely kill him, we will have to be on guard against his revenge in the future. Long Yunxiao slightly nodded and said, "This monarch understands. Don't worry. This is the most important matter for this monarch. In addition, this monarch came to find you for a second matter. The imperial court has already dealt with many rich and powerful families and forces. This matter is gradually calming down. Now the emperor wants to deal with the myriad Gu altar. After all, Morongzhang, Yu Tianhong, and many other rich and powerful families are still under the control of the Gu poison. The imperial court wants to take back this evil magic treasure and completely destroy it, so as to prevent this evil item from spreading and causing trouble to the human world. Tianqing, the emperor ordered this monarch to find you. Hand over the myriad Gu altar to this monarch, so that this monarch can report back to the imperial court." The imperial court's decision was already within Tianqing's expectations. He didn't feel surprised at all, nor did he resist or be unwilling. He took out the myriad Gu altar and handed it over to Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao solemnly accepted the myriad Gu altar before bidding farewell to him and leaving Tianqing Palace. After Long Yunxiao left, Tianqing sat in the study room and pondered for a while before returning to his room to rest. A day quickly passed. Early the next morning, the guard commander came to the door and reported a piece of news. Reporting to the territorial lord, "Here is a secret letter from the Donglin Divine General's residence." Xiao Han finally replied to my letter. Tianqing raised his eyebrows slightly with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. He waved his hand and opened the door, allowing the guard commander to bring the letter in. After receiving the letter, he asked the guard commander to leave and carefully read the contents of the letter, only to see a few lines of majestic, vigorous, and powerful characters written on the fine golden silk paper. It was Xiao Han's handwriting. "Young Master Ji, this monarch has already reported to the Xiao clan about your request, and specially asked for the clan elder's opinion. Now there is finally news from the clan. After this monarch received the news, this monarch immediately informed you. My ancestor left the Xiao clan several decades ago to travel outside. Fortunately, my ancestor returned to the Xiao clan 5 years ago. 1 month later, it will be the Holy Fire Festival of my clan. At that time, my clan will hold a grand celebration." Chapter 1148. After reading Xiao Han's letter, Tianqing put it away and looked relieved. Fortunately, the Xiao clan's patriarch is in the Xiao clan, and Xiao Han is willing to help me. Soon, I will be able to see the Xiao clan's patriarch and verify my speculation. Xiao Han had told him in Wuxia City that the Xiao clan was very far away from Zhongzhou and was hidden in a hidden forbidden area. He also mentioned in the letter that the Xiao clan would be holding the Holy Fire Festival in a month's time. Although Tianqing didn't know what kind of festival the Holy Fire Festival was for the time being. However, Xiao Han's tone was solemn. This festival was obviously a very important celebration for the Xiao clan. Tianqing calculated in his heart. It will take at least half a month to reach the Xiao clan from Zhongzhou. Xiao Han will be leaving for the Xiao clan in 2 days. I have to pack up and prepare to go to the Xiao clan with him. After making up his mind, he got up and left Tianqing Palace for Yunyao Palace. Before he left, he had to say goodbye to Yunyao. Half an hour later, he entered Yunyao Palace and saw Yunyao in the study room. Yunyao was reading a book in the study room. She was reading the books written by the god masters in the monarch residence. These books recorded many methods and cultivation experiences for condensing the divine soul and breaking through to the soul-tempering realm. Tianqing glanced at the names of the books and guessed what Yunyao was thinking. She must be preparing to break through to the soul-tempering realm. After entering the study room, he called out, "Yao Yao." Yunyao was awakened by him. She quickly put down the ancient book in her hand and turned to look at him. She nodded and said, "Tianqing, you are here. Is there anything I can help you with?" Tianqing nodded and walked to her side. He sat down and said, "Yao Yao, I will be leaving the monarch residence tomorrow to do something important." Yunyao nodded slightly and asked with concern, "How long will you be away for this time? Will it be dangerous? How about I go with you?" Tianqing smiled and waved his hand. Don't worry, there's no danger. I'm just going to a place to meet a person and confirm a matter. My departure this time will take about 2 months. I'll leave you 3 jade slips. If you have any urgent matters, just send me a message. After saying that, he took out 3 jade slips from his interspatial ring and handed them to Yun Yao. Yun Yao received the jade slip and put it into her interspatial ring. Then she said, Tianxing, you can set your mind at ease and attend to your matters. Go and come back early. It just so happens that my strength has reached a bottleneck. I'm preparing to enter secluded cultivation for a few months to break through the shackles of the soul refining realm. If everything goes smoothly, I'll probably be able to break through to the soul refinement realm by the time you return. Ji Tianxing revealed a gratified smile and nodded. I believe in you. You will break through smoothly. The two sat in the study for a while and chatted for a while before Ji Tianxing bid farewell and left. He didn't have anything to pack and directly left the monarch mansion. He flew over the sky of Zhongzhou City and rushed toward Wuxia City. Several hours later, he was flying thousands of meters high in the sky. At this time, Qian Yu's voice sounded in his mind. Old Ji, where are we going? Ji Tianxing was startled. With a thought, he opened the entrance to the sword world and let Qian Yu fly out. Whoosh! An icy blue light flashed and Qian Yu flew out of the sword world and appeared in the sky. It carried Ji Tianxing on its back and soared through the sky. Ji Tianxing revealed a smile and said, I'm going to Wuxia City to find Divine General Donglin to do something. Qian Yu, why didn't you stay in the sword world and cultivate? What are you doing out here? Qian Yu shook its head and said in a depressed tone, It's been almost a year. The little black dragon and I have been cultivating in seclusion in the sword world and are about to die of boredom. The Jinshan King and Ida have been busy all day exploring new territories, cultivating ore veins, and forging weapons in all kinds of different ways. I don't know what stimulated the little black dragon, but it only knows how to cultivate in seclusion and doesn't play with me anymore. I'm bored in there, so I came out to get some fresh air. Ji Tianxing patted its head and said with a smile, The Earth Spirit's greatest wish is to have a peaceful place with abundant ore veins for them to rest and recuperate. The sword world is their ideal home, so of course they are busy cultivating ore veins and forging weapons. As for the little black dragon, it must have been stimulated in the Eastern Sea. That big black dragon called Long Yuan imparted many cultivation experiences and secret techniques to the little black dragon, which is of great help to it. The little black dragon has been working hard for the past year, so it must want to master the secret technique and reach the spirit refining stage as soon as possible. Speaking of this, he showed a bitter smile and said, The Earth Spirit has been working hard, recuperating, and growing stronger. The little black dragon has also been working hard. It has reached the 5th level of Sky Origin stage, and its strength has been increasing rapidly. You are the only one who is still as lazy as before, not working hard at cultivation. You should learn more from the little black dragon. Qian Yu curled his lips in dissatisfaction. TCH, I don't want to be like the little black dragon, so dull and boring. Plus, I am the noble king of spirit beasts, with extraordinary talent and natural talent. Even if I don't cultivate, I am still stronger than them. The little black dragon is only at the 5th level of Sky Origin stage, and I am at the 6th level. Old Ji, why don't you praise me? In any case, Ji Tianxing was in a hurry and had nothing to do, so he chatted with Qian Yu and said sincerely, Qian Yu, it is true that your talent is higher than the little black dragon's. But you can't waste your great aptitude and talent like this. Wasting your time like this, wasting your time. With such extraordinary talent, if you are as diligent as the little black dragon, you will reach the spirit refining stage soon. Won't you? How about this? I will set a goal for the two of you. Whoever reaches the spirit refining stage first will be able to stay by my side. If you don't reach the spirit refining stage, you will stay in the sword world and cultivate. You are not allowed to come out. Qian Yu's face was filled with grievance and anger. He snorted coldly and said, Humph! Old Ji, you know that I am a carefree little heavenly fox who loves freedom, yet you use such a vicious punishment on me. You heartless guy, You only know how to side with the little black dragon. Ji Tianqing rolled his eyes. Don't play the pitiful with me. I am doing this for your own good. No bargaining. With that, he flipped his hand and a white light appeared, opening the entrance to the sword world. Qianyu was unable to resist, and was directly sucked into the sword world. Qianyu was filled with helplessness and depression. He could only return to the peaceful Earth City and disturb the little black dragon, who was cultivating in seclusion. Before they knew it, 5 days had passed. Chapter 1149. When Ji Tianqing entered Wuxia City, Xiao Han was already waiting for him in the city lord's mansion. After the two met in the city lord's mansion's guest hall, they exchanged some pleasantries before sitting down to chat. 10 days ago, Xiao Han received a reply from the Xiao clan and sent a secret letter to Ji Tianqing. After settling the military affairs in the Eastern Sea, he rushed back to Wuxia City to wait for Ji Tianqing's arrival. The two agreed on the date and decided to depart for the Xiao clan early in the morning. Ji Tianqing was puzzled and asked Xiao Han, Sir Divine General, we will be heading to the Xiao clan tomorrow. Can Sir Divine General please tell me where the Xiao clan is? Xiao Han revealed a meaningful smile and transmitted his voice. You will know tomorrow anyway, so there's no harm in telling you. The Xiao clan is actually hidden in the most dangerous forbidden area on the continent, in the depths of the Southern Desolation Swamp. Very few people dare to enter the Southern Desolation Swamp, as it is too dangerous. Those who enter rashly will most likely lose their lives. Moreover, the Xiao clan is in a grotto heaven, and the entrance is very well hidden. Even if ordinary people know where the Xiao clan is, they won't be able to find the entrance, let alone enter. Ji Tianqing finally understood and nodded. Everyone thinks that the Southern Desolation Swamp is a land of God's punishment with endless dangers hidden in it. No one lives there. No one expected the Xiao clan to live in seclusion in the Southern Desolation Swamp. No wonder they can live in seclusion for thousands of years. The Xiao clan dares to live in seclusion in the Southern Desolation Swamp. This shows the courage, determination, and means of the Xiao clan's patriarch. They are all extraordinary. Young Master Ji, you flatter me, Xiao Han said modestly. There are still 20 days before the Holy Fire Festival. With our speed, we will be just in time to return to the Xiao clan. Ji Tianqing quickly asked, Sir Divine General, can you explain what the Holy Fire Festival is? I would like to know more about this festival, so that there won't be any misunderstandings. Well, that's good too. Xiao Han thought for a while and explained. The Holy Fire Festival is a grand celebration held once every 20 years in the Xiao clan. This festival would last for 3 days. Sacred flames would be lit all over the clan, and they would not be extinguished for 3 days and 3 nights. During the Holy Fire Festival, the new generation of Xiao clan's disciples would be tested by the clan. Only the top 2 that passed the test were qualified to leave the Xiao clan and venture into the Tianxian land. The disciples of the Xiao clan, who failed to obtain the top 2 positions, could only wait for the next Holy Fire Festival 20 years later. If the disciples of the Xiao clan were still unable to obtain the top 2 positions in the second Holy Fire Festival, they would have to stay in the Xiao clan forever and reproduce until they died of old age. Every disciple of the Xiao clan had 2 chances to leave, but only the most outstanding disciples could head to the outside world. At the same time, the Holy Fire Festival was also a celebration for young men and women to court each other. Boys and girls who express their love in public during the Holy Fire Festival and receive a response will receive the blessings of the entire clan. After listening to Xiao Han's explanation, Ji Tianqing couldn't help but reveal a smile. It sounds rather interesting. Not only can it allow the Xiao clan to maintain peace and friendship, it can also motivate the younger generation. It seems like this Holy Fire Festival is of great significance to the Xiao clan. Of course. Xiao Han nodded and said, other than the Xiao clan's patriarch's birthday every 100 years, the Holy Fire Festival is the grandest festival. This time, I used the Holy Fire Festival as an opportunity to find an excuse that the elders couldn't reject. I want to witness the test process with my own eyes, and bring out the two most outstanding disciples of the Shao clan to train under me." Ji Tianqing's eyes couldn't help but light up. He smiled and said, "This excuse is indeed hard for the Shao clan to reject. After all, you are the Donglin Divine General, one of the most respected figures in the continent. If the two inexperienced disciples of the Shao clan could receive your guidance and nurture, it would be a great blessing and opportunity. I'm afraid all the young disciples would dream of it." Shao Han smiled and nodded. "That's right. I used this excuse to get the elders to agree to let me bring you into the Shao clan. However, the Shao clan's rules are there, and the elders can't openly violate them. I can bring you into the Shao clan, but you have to suffer some grievances to cover up this matter." Ji Tianqing was already mentally prepared. He asked, "Sir Divine General, may I ask what I need to do?" Shao Han looked at him deeply and asked tentatively, "You have to pretend to be a disciple of the Shao clan, and use the identity of my nephew to follow me into the Shao clan. Of course, I don't mean to take advantage of you. This is just an expedient measure. Everyone knows about it." Ji Tianqing thought for a while and agreed readily. "Sir Divine General, you are too polite. You are a senior who has lived for more than 100 years, and is also the Divine General who guards the Eastern Sea. I am your junior, and it is reasonable for me to call you uncle. There is no grievance." Seeing him agree so readily, the last trace of worry in Shao Han's heart disappeared. He quickly smiled and nodded. "Since young Master Ji is so righteous, then I am relieved. You can rest in the city lord's mansion today. Tomorrow morning, we will leave for the southern wasteland swamp." "Okay." Ji Tianqing nodded and went to rest under the guidance of the housekeeper. A day passed by quickly. Early in the morning of the second day, Ji Tianqing left the city lord's mansion with Shao Han. The two of them flew up to the sky and rushed to the south as fast as lightning. The distance from the central continent to the southern wasteland swamp was too far. A year ago, Ji Tianqing was only at the 8th level of the sky origin stage. It took him 3 months to reach the southern wasteland city from the central continent. But it was different now. He and Shao Han were both powerhouses of the soul refining stage. Their speed was several times faster than before. Shao Han was driving a flying magic weapon. It was a black flying boat of the soul level. It was like a stream of light cutting through the sky, as fast as lightning. Ji Tianqing was standing on a blazing white soul magic sword. He was like a white light, flying side by side with Shao Han. In fact, he was as fast as Shao Han with only 50% of his strength. If he drove the soul magic sword with all his strength, he would be twice as fast as Shao Han. The two of them flew all the way and didn't encounter any danger or trouble. About 14 days later, the two of them had crossed more than half of the southern continent and arrived at the southern wasteland city. The long journey and flying had consumed a lot of their magic power. Both of them looked travel-worn and fatigued. The two of them prepared to enter the southern wasteland city and rest for the night. They would continue their journey tomorrow morning. It was evening, and the sun hadn't completely set yet. However, when the two of them were 100 miles away from the southern wasteland city, they saw that the sky was dark. On the vast grassland outside the southern wasteland city, there were countless huge figures, flying as fast as the wind, attacking the southern wasteland city. Even in the sky around the southern wasteland city, there were tens of thousands of birds and black figures, covering the sky and covering the sun. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Chapter 1150. A year ago, when Ji Tianqing came to southern wasteland city for the first time, he had heard about the beast tide. The so-called beast tide was when a large number of demon beasts rushed out of the southern wasteland swamp at a specific time and attacked the surrounding cities and towns. Countless demon beasts and birds covered the sky like a tide, wantonly destroying the cities and slaughtering the civilians. Although Ji Tianqing did not encounter such a thing at that time, he had paid attention to the information about the beast tide. He knew that there would be a beast tide in southern wasteland city every 2 years, but the specific time was not fixed. Every time a beast tide broke out, it would bring great destruction to southern wasteland city, causing the deaths of countless warriors and civilians. After a beast tide, southern Wasteland City would be in a mess, with corpses everywhere and rivers of blood. But the civilians of southern Wasteland City resisted the beast tide tenaciously, wiped away their blood and tears, cleaned up the city, and continued to live a strong life. Ji Tianxing did not expect that he would not encounter a beast tide outbreak a year ago, but today he happened to encounter one. As a divine general, Xiao Han was naturally experienced and knowledgeable, and he knew what a beast tide was. His expression changed immediately, and he accelerated towards southern Wasteland City. Quick, let's hurry to southern Wasteland City and stop the beast tide from invading, and protect the civilians in the city. Although the southern continent and southern Wasteland City were not under his jurisdiction, but as a divine general of the imperial court, it was his duty to protect the civilians and territory of the human race, regardless of region. Ji Tianxing was no exception. As a transcendent expert, how could he stand aside and watch the civilians suffer a disaster with his own eyes? Swoosh, swoosh. The two of them flew towards southern Wasteland City as fast as light, and arrived above the city gate in the blink of an eye. On the grassland outside the city, there were thousands of ferocious demon beasts, madly rushing towards southern Wasteland City. Those demon beasts were of different races. There were cloud leopards with silver stripes all over their bodies, flame tigers with fiery red bodies, thunder beasts with 4 feet on fire, and electric arcs on their antennae. Most of the demon beasts had the strength of the metaphysical realm, and their bodies were about 1 to 2 zhang long and 2 to 3 meters tall. A few of the demon beasts were as large as houses, aggressive and full of murderous intent. They were all Origin Core Realm demon beasts. And in the sky, there were several giant demon beasts with wings, all of which had the strength of the Origin Realm. The 6 demon beasts were the leaders of the thousands of demon beasts. Were the leaders. Their intelligence was quite high. They stood in the sky, overlooking the group of demonic beasts on the grassland, as well as the situation inside the southern Wasteland City. Southern beasts, demon beasts, southern Wasteland City were in the sky, from different directions, and tried to tear Wasteland City's defense. As for the 1,000-meter-high sky, the number of demonic beasts and birds that covered the sky was even greater. There were as many as 30 to 40,000 of them. The leading birds had a wingspan of nearly 100 meters, which was huge enough to cover the sky and the sun. Their wings stirred up strong winds like tornadoes as they rushed towards the southern Wasteland City. Fortunately, the southern Wasteland City seemed to have received the news in advance. They knew that the beast tide was about to break out, and had already made corresponding preparations. Experience time. Times of hundreds of demon beasts. Every time a demon beast tide broke out, there would be some signs. The 2 city gates of southern Wasteland City were closed, and the city defense array was activated. An earthy yellow light shield with a radius of 100 miles enveloped the entire southern Wasteland City. Above the city wall, tens of thousands of city guards and warriors were holding swords and crossbows, ready for battle. Between the battlements of the city wall, many ballistae, catapults, and spears were set up. When the demon beasts from all directions crazily attacked the defensive formation of the southern Wasteland City, the dark yellow light shield started to shake intensely under the bombardment of the fierce attacks. Countless city guards started to fight back. They controlled the ballistae, catapults, and spears to release countless steel arrows, millstone stones, and fine steel spears. Thousands of arrows and fine steel spears formed a rain of arrows, crazily raining down on the demon beasts around the city. Countless millstone-sized rocks, carrying a violent force, ruthlessly smashed towards the demon beasts that were charging from all directions. Swish, swish, swish. Bang, bang, bang. The rain of arrows covered the sky, and the giant stones pierced through the sky. Countless crazy demon beasts were pierced through by the steel arrows and spears. They fell on the grassland with blood all over their bodies, or were nailed to the ground. There were also many huge demon beasts that were hit by the millstone stones falling from the sky. Their bones and flesh were smashed, and they fell to the ground, letting out angry roars. For a moment, the sound of arrows piercing through the sky the sound of rocks colliding with flesh, and the roars of the demon beasts intertwined into a deafening sound wave, fiercely reverberating around the southern wasteland city. Although demon beasts were knocked down to the ground one after another, they were killed on the spot, and their flesh and blood were scattered all over the grassland. But this tragic scene did not frighten the other demon beasts. On the contrary, it stimulated their fierceness even more. They launched an even more desperate attack, using all their strength to fiercely attack the city defense array of the southern wasteland city. Tens of thousands of demon beasts and birds in the sky also spat out flames, ice, and spirit energy blades, wantonly bombarding the city defense array. Countless city guards and warriors of the southern wasteland city went all out to operate the city defense array, strenuously supporting it, resisting the fierce attack of the demon beast tide. However, the city defense array's power was quickly consumed, and it was on the verge of collapse. At the end of the grassland outside the city, endless demon beasts continuously rushed out of the forest, crossing the grassland as fast as the wind, and rushed toward the southern wasteland city while roaring. The situation of the southern wasteland city was getting more and more dangerous. The city defense array became thinner and thinner, shaking more and more violently, and even numerous cracks appeared. The city defense array was about to be breached by the demon beast tide. Once the demon beast army rushed into the city, countless city guards and warriors would have to fight the demon beasts in close quarters. At that time, the southern wasteland city would certainly be plunged into disaster and war. It would be too horrible to look at. At this critical moment, Xiao Han could not help but take action. Damn evil beasts, die! He stepped into the sky, reaching a height of 1,000 meters in 3 steps, and waved his big sleeves, shooting out hundreds and thousands of 5-colored light blades. Skywind Feather Blade. Thousands of 5-colored light blades, each more than 3 meters long, contained incomparably sharp power. Swish, swish, swish. The overwhelming 5-colored light blades, like a rain of arrows, poured down, and instantly hit more than 200 demon beasts. Those demon beasts did not have time to react, and simply had no time to dodge. They were killed on the spot by the 5-colored light blades, and even their corpses were cut into pieces of meat. Countless pieces of meat mixed with blood sprinkled on the dark green grassland, emitting a pungent smell of blood, and dyeing the grassland dark red. Xiao Han's move intimidated countless demon beasts, and also made countless city guards and warriors on the city wall exclaim. Ji Tianxing also did not want to be outdone. He jumped into the sky, and pounced toward the demon beasts and birds high in the sky. Chapter 1151. Ji Tianxing understood better than anyone the principle of capturing the leader first. There were tens of thousands of bird demon beasts in the sky, densely covering the sky. No matter how strong he and Xiao Han were, how many of them could they kill? Only by killing the leader of the demon beasts first would they be able to intimidate the beast tide to the greatest extent. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing turned into a beam of golden light, and instantly rushed to the vicinity of the bird leaders. Without any hesitation, he directly used a powerful killing move. Metal Emperor Slash. He waved his palms, condensing a giant golden sword that was hundreds of meters long, and slashed toward the birds of the heavenly Yuan realm. The 6 bird leaders were as large as palaces, and their wings were hundreds of meters wide. They were circling in the sky, constantly emitting chirps, commanding tens of thousands of birds to attack from all directions. The sudden appearance of the giant golden sword caught them off guard, and they were unable to dodge. The giant golden sword drew a beautiful arc in the sky, and at an incredible angle, struck 3 bird leaders one after another. Bang, bang, bang. Following 3 deafening sounds, the 3 leaders of the birds were cut in half on the spot. Their corpses sprayed blood all over the sky and sprinkled down from the sky. The other 2 bird leaders sensed that something was wrong, and immediately let out a shrill and panicked cry, fleeing into the distance. Ji Tianxing did not hesitate to chase after them, waving his hands to release 2 giant sword radiances that shot out. Another 2 muffled sounds exploded. Before the 2 bird leaders could escape far, they were pierced through by the giant sword and killed in an instant. 5 heavenly Yuan realm bird leaders were easily killed by Ji Tianxing. The tens of thousands of bird demon beasts in the sky were suddenly a little flustered, and holes and gaps appeared in their formation. Countless soldiers and warriors on the city walls saw this scene with their own eyes, and immediately cheered in excitement. Look, there are experts coming to rescue us. Great. We're saved at last. Everyone look, the demon beasts in the sky are flustered. They must be scared out of their wits. The strength of those 2 experts is so terrifying. They are definitely not from our Heaven Wasteland Empire. They are most likely experts under the command of the Domain Lord. Quickly report to the city lord that an expert has come to our aid. The soldiers and cultivators on the city wall cheered, raising their arms and cheering for Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han. They looked at the figures of Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han. Their burning eyes were filled with worship. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han, one dealing with the flying birds in the sky, the other dealing with the huge demonic beasts outside the city. They fought fiercely with tens of thousands of demonic beasts. They used their secret techniques and ultimate skills with unpredictable power, often killing 100 or 200 demon beasts with a single move, which was an eye-opener for the warriors of the southern wasteland city, and made them extremely excited. Not long after, the southern wasteland city lord led 2 commanders and a few clan lords to the top of the city wall. These people were the most powerful experts and nobles of the southern wasteland city, and also the spiritual support of the people of the southern wasteland city. When they saw the heroic appearance of Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han on the city wall, they also revealed a look of shock, their eyes full of gratitude. Unknowingly, a quarter of an hour had passed. Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han had both killed more than 3,000 demon beasts, but they themselves were not injured in the slightest, and were still full of energy. Inside and outside the southern wasteland city, the corpses of demon beasts were scattered everywhere. Blood fell to the ground, dyeing the grass dark red. The battle situation was so tragic, but the beast tide was still surging. Tens of thousands of demon beasts were still unwilling to retreat, and madly attacked the southern wasteland city, besieging Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han. The soldiers and cultivators on the city wall all relaxed, and their hearts were much more at ease. In their opinion, with the 2 super experts Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han, the safety of the southern wasteland city was assured. Even the mayor and the heads of the wealthy families were discussing with a smile, guessing the identity of Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han. Suddenly, in the dark gray sky, a huge shadow like a mountain suddenly appeared. Swoosh! It was a shadow with a radius of 1,000 meters, carrying a terrifying aura that could suppress the heaven and earth, and fell from the sky. Its falling speed was extremely fast, like a huge mountain pressing down, fiercely bombarding the southern wasteland city. When everyone felt that something was wrong, and looked up to the sky, the shadow had already rushed to the top of the southern wasteland city. Only then did everyone see clearly that it was a giant black bird with a length of 1,000 meters, with a pair of wings that could cover the sky and the sun. Its appearance was like a goshawk, but it had 4 thick and powerful claws, and black feathers all over its body, as hard and cold as steel, emitting a sharp cold light. Especially its head. It was even more unusual. There was a bunch of dark golden feathers on its forehead, like a cluster of golden sharp swords, containing an invincible sharpness. In a pair of huge gray eyes, blood-red pupils revealed a taste of madness and bloodthirst. Ji Tianxing, Xiao Han, and the mayor of the southern wasteland city were stunned for a moment, and then they all reacted, exclaiming one after another, "Oh my God, what kind of monster is that? Such a huge demonic beast, its aura is so strong." It's the Sky Eagle. Its strength has reached the soul-refining stage. It's over. A soul-refining stage demonic beast is attacking the southern wasteland city. How can we resist it? In just 2 breaths, the mountain-like Sky Eagle fell from the sky and bombarded the city defense array. Kaboom! In the deafening loud noise, its 4 huge, dark, cold, and incomparably sharp claws, which were as big as a house, fiercely smashed the city defense array. The dark yellow light barrier within a radius of 100 miles instantly collapsed and exploded into pieces that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, splashing in all directions. An incomparably violent hurricane raged in the southern wasteland city, crazily sweeping in all directions. The tall and sturdy city gate was blown down on the spot. The mayor of the southern wasteland city, 2 commanders, several leaders of wealthy families, and many city guards, who were standing on the city wall, were all blown away. The soldiers and warriors below the sky origin stage directly had their internal organs smashed and fell to the ground dead. The few city lords and leaders of wealthy families who had reached the sky origin stage were also seriously injured on the spot, vomiting blood and screaming after falling to the ground. In the blink of an eye, the jubilant atmosphere dissipated, and countless people fell into panic and horror. The city defense array was broken, and the southern wasteland city was exposed to the demonic beast tide, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Tens of thousands of demonic beasts suddenly became crazy with excitement and rushed to the southern wasteland city recklessly, like a tide sweeping through the buildings in the city and countless people. In the blink of an eye, the southern wasteland city fell into a huge chaos. The buildings collapsed, and countless people died under the claws of the demonic beasts. Black smoke rose from the raging fire, making the city a mess. Chapter 1152. Although Ji Tianxing and Xiao Han didn't understand why the Sky Eagle was attacking the southern wasteland city, this kind of spirit-refining realm beast was an overlord in the southern wasteland swamp. Why would it be interested in the small southern wasteland city? But they didn't have time to think about it. The most important thing now was to stop the Sky Eagle from wreaking havoc in the city and rescue the people as soon as possible. Ji Tianxing hurriedly said to Xiao Han, "Lord Divine General, please stop the beast tide and protect the people in the city. I will deal with the Sky Eagle." Xiao Han immediately shook his head and said worriedly, "Young Master Ji, that Sky Eagle is a 1,000-year-old demon king. Its strength is comparable to a 6th or 7th level spirit-refining realm expert. You can't deal with it alone. It's too dangerous. If you want to deal with it, you and I have to work together." Ji Tianxing looked at him with a resolute gaze and said in a resolute tone, "Lord Xiao, please trust me and let me deal with it. You are the divine general of the imperial court. Protecting the people is your top priority." Then, he rushed to the Sky Eagle without looking back. His whole body was bursting with murderous intent. 3 blazing soul magic swords flew out from his back. Xiao Han was stunned. He looked at Ji Tianxing's back with a complicated expression. He pursed his lips and said, "Young Master Ji, you must be careful." How could he not understand that protecting the people in the city was more important and easier? Dealing with the Sky Eagle was the most dangerous. The slightest carelessness could cost one's life. But Ji Tianxing chose to deal with the Sky Eagle and took the initiative to risk his life. How noble and righteous was this? Xiao Han didn't say it, but he admired Ji Tianxing very much. The more he interacted with Ji Tianxing, the more he understood Ji Tianxing, the more he admired this young man. He was really a peerless talent with good character. He looked at Ji Tianxing deeply, then turned and flew to the southern wasteland city to rescue the people and kill the demon beast that invaded the city. The Sky Eagle didn't stop after destroying the city defense array. It didn't attack the people. It seemed to have a target. Its figure flashed and flew deep into the southern wasteland city. Shwa. After a few breaths, it rushed to the deepest part of the southern wasteland city, like a black shadow, and stopped in the air above a pagoda. This was an ancient pagoda that was over 1,000 feet tall, and was completely gold and red in color. The pagoda had a total of 9 floors, but it was always sealed and no one could enter. On the cornice around the pagoda, there were countless carvings of divine beasts. They were lifelike and looked extremely sacred. At the top of the pagoda stood 2 lifelike statues of 2 divine birds. The divine bird on the left was a crimson fire phoenix, while the divine bird on the right was a dark gold dragon phoenix. This pagoda was the iconic building of the southern wasteland city. It was also the holy pagoda in the hearts of all the citizens. It was said that this sacred tower had thousands of years of history and was a relic left behind from ancient times. For thousands of years, the southern wasteland city had gone through the vicissitudes of time. The city had expanded several times, and it had been rebuilt more than a dozen times. However, this holy tower would always stand in the depths of the southern wasteland city. There was a poignant and touching legend about the sacred tower. However, other than the citizens of the southern wasteland city, no one believed in this legend, nor were they interested in it. The last time Ji Tianxing came to the southern wasteland city, he had noticed this pagoda and understood the relevant information. However, he did not have the time to enter the pagoda to worship and tour it, so he did not take this matter to heart. When he caught up with the Sky Eagle, he realized that the Sky Eagle was staring at the sacred tower. Only then did he realize that something was amiss. The Sky Eagle's eyes were fixed on the sacred tower. Its dark red pupils were surging with excitement and desire. It seemed to have sensed Ji Tianxing's aura, and sensed that danger was approaching. It did not waste any more time and immediately took action. Swoosh! It released an endless amount of black light from its body. It flapped its wide wings and condensed into the shadow of a giant sword. It charged at the sacred tower as fast as the aurora. Kaboom! The Sky Eagle slammed into the sacred tower, and there was a loud explosion. The golden-red sacred tower's defensive array was activated, and a crimson and dark gold light barrier lit up. The entire sacred tower trembled violently. The ground at the bottom of the tower cracked in all directions. However, the holy pagoda did not collapse. The golden-red barrier cracked, but it still protected the holy pagoda. Chirp! The Sky Eagle's eyes shone fiercely. It once again unleashed all its strength, and its body lit up with the white light of the divine soul. Kaboom! It charged at the sacred tower recklessly, and attacked the sacred tower's defensive light barrier again. Kacha! Kacha! The golden-red light barrier cracked even wider, and countless fragments burst out. It was on the verge of collapse. A super earthquake occurred in a 15-mile radius around the sacred tower. The ground cracked open and countless wide ravines were formed. Tens of thousands of houses and buildings collapsed from the earthquake, turning into ruins. Countless citizens were buried in the ruins, and they let out desperate wails as they were on the verge of death. Ji Tianxing frowned. His pupils constricted as he stared at the sacred tower. It was only at this moment that he realized that the unassuming sacred tower was actually so magical. This was because the golden-red light barrier protecting the sacred tower was actually a soul-grade defensive array. The Sky Eagle's strength had reached the 6th level of the spirit refinement realm. It attacked the sacred tower with all its might twice, but it still could not break the light barrier. No, there must be something wrong with this sacred tower. What secret is hidden inside that made the Sky Eagle so crazy? This thought flashed through his mind. He was also very puzzled and curious. However, he did not have time to think about this. He made a prompt decision and used a secret technique to attack the Sky Eagle. Damned beast, die! Lightning! Ji Tianxing let out a low growl and suddenly opened the third eye on his forehead. The azure blue pupil in the golden eye released endless lightning. It condensed into a blue light pillar and blasted at the Sky Eagle. Kaboom! The Sky Eagle was hit by the lightning pillar. It let out a tragic cry and crashed into the sacred tower. Its body was charred black by the lightning. Black smoke rose in spirals, and its feathers curled up. However, this was only a light injury to it. It did not affect its battle. It actually ignored Ji Tianxing. When it saw the sacred tower's defensive light barrier crack, its eyes were filled with ecstasy. It waved its 4 claws and slapped the sacred tower with all its might. Bam! 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 In a series of dull sounds, the sacred tower's defensive light barrier shattered and completely collapsed. Following that, the 100 feet tall sacred tower also collapsed with a rumble. It was broken into several pieces by the Sky Eagle. Countless bricks and tiles fell from the sky to the ground. The 2 dragon and phoenix statues at the top of the tower also broke into pieces and scattered among the ruins. The Sky Eagle pounced into the pile of ruins. Its 4 claws dug into the ruins and dug out 2 dazzling balls of light. One was a fiery red ball of light, and the other was a resplendent golden ball of light. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.